What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto fight in the war of the Holy Grail? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. It's funny how facing off against a gigantic hell creature composed of the will of the earth itself can put your life into perspective. The earth beneath my feet trembled and quaked in sync with the beast's lumbering breaths. Around me sand stretches in every direction, far beyond the horizon exists nothing but sand. Thousands upon thousands of miles of empty space, devoid of even the simplest life. The air is warm and stale and a shadow has fallen over me. The lumbering beast is blocking out the sun with its immense body. I have always wondered how my life was going to end. Whether it was going to be in a fit of glory or in peace surrounded by those I cared about. I never expected it would be a thankless, lonely death. However, for this I did not need thanks. This is an accomplishment I will be happy if no one ever learns about. We are far away from civilization. Far beyond the reach of mortal eyes, and those that could have seen this far have been occupied with other concerns. This creature is one I don't want anyone to know about. Those who do know of its existence know enough not to tell anyone. As the sage of the sixth path remains a legend, the white beast must never be made known to the world. I don't know how they would handle it, the knowledge that the earth itself has will, and with that will would crush humanity rather than allow it to lead to the destruction of the planet. The earth shudders and groans as a low growl emanates from the monstrous form before me. No, it is not just the earth. The very fabric of reality is fracturing as the measure of power in such a simple gesture is released. But that's okay. It's all right to be angry. I'd be angry as well if my body was torn asunder and reduced into mindless demons. But I can't let that anger go unchecked. I can't let you go on, you know. I say casually as I meet the blood-red gaze of the creature before me. Even if I didn't care for the world, you took someone very close to my heart from me. I paused for a moment. Kyuubi may have been an ugly bastard fox, but it was my ugly bastard fox. A sound akin to tree branches cracking filled the air. We are the same. You're not. You aren't even in the same class as the old fox. You're a pitiful tool wielded by this husk of a planet clinging to the wistful ideology that you still belong to yourself. But that isn't the case. You belong to us. We are strong, and we exceed your will. My soul ignites. Quite literally. The willpower of 1,000 generations of mankind, of those gone, present and to be threatens to overwhelm me. But threats are just that, they're potential dangers. I am a potential danger to the entity before me. It knows it. It knew it before I arrived. This confrontation has been preordained since before the dawn of my civilization. The fulcrum where the will of the planet and the will of humanity meet. So, what do I call you? Jubi? We have no title. Of course not. You don't have a will of your own, do you? You're just a puppet. But then, that is all I am now as well. A cool breeze flows past me, ruffling my hair and my coat. It's oddly soothing, like the caress of a fondly remembered lover. It plays against my skin in a dance of absent-minded joy. I don't suppose you're willing to just surrender, are you? Gravity suddenly becomes 1,000 times stronger than it should be. Everything is being crushed into the earth. Even the air itself is being pulled down. Beneath me the sand compacts down and walls of sepia rise up around me. No, that isn't it. They aren't rising. I'm sinking. This is not the planet's full will. This is a fraction that it is able to exert. We will not cease. That's because the white beast isn't part of the planet. It isn't its brother, or sister, or mother, or uncle, it isn't even its friend. It is a creation that cannot exceed the entity that created it. It is unable to tap the full power of the planet. And that is why it will never defeat me. I hold the will of humanity. I am the guardian who cannot be defeated. The white beast may have been called into existence from humanity's sins and destructive nature, but it cannot surpass us. Nothing is allowed to destroy us. We can destroy you, not even our own will. I released my hold on the will, and the world around me ceased to exist. No, that is not it. It has been suppressed. The sand, the sky, the air, even time itself. This is the world of will. This is where humanity triumphs. This is where the white beast is defeated again. This is where I will die. This is not what I wanted. This is all that I can do. The summoning. I stare into the distance. A beautiful night stretches out in front of me. In endless darkness. It's a peaceful night. The sound of wind rustling trees' branches is soothing and melodic. The moon hangs high above in the sky. It is wondrous. What a beautiful moment. There is no pain or death, no agony that needs to be relieved. What a beautiful and tender moment. I've not had one since I had been cast from the mortal coil. A shallow breath escapes my lips. The first one. It congeals in the air as a puff of mist. I inhaled through my nose and the nostalgic scent of pine teases the senses. Beneath me a set of stone stairs flow down in a descent to the darkness below. Even with the moonlight cascading down, it is hard to see beyond. It takes me a few moments to notice, but there is a presence behind me. How odd. This place. It feels familiar. A resonance pulses out from the land beneath my feet as to answer. It thrums through my body like a live wire. I exhale again. There is a presence behind me. It is not doing anything to hide itself. It does not move at all. I turn my head to the side. Are you the one who brought me into this paradise? I ask softly. The words roll from my lips. This voice that hasn't been used in an eternity still works. Paradise? I would hardly call it such a thing. A feminine voice, soft, gentle, not harsh from screaming or punctuated by gouts of blood spewing from wounds. How can you say that when you sound so beautiful? I ask casually and turn the rest of the way. She stands atop the stairs, under a redwood arch. Cloaked in a dark purple robe of finery. Ornaments of gold adorn her robes and a thin strip of black material fits to the nape of her neck. I can see but the barest hint of her features under her hood. The slender curve of her hips hints towards a soft thin build. Not fit by any measure, but no doubt attractive. She doesn't react to my words, or the flow of my gaze over her body. I imagine anything alive would be beautiful to you, wouldn't it, Uzumaki Naruto? I blink in surprise before a small smile appears on my lips. So you are the reason I was summoned? I am, she answered after a pregnant moment of silence. I am your master in this world. I summoned you in order to do my bidding. From now on you shall not be known as Uzumaki Naruto, but assassin. As you are a servant, you should have been updated on the current situation by the Holy Grail. Do you have any questions? As if cued by her words, a rush of information bombarded my mind. The Holy Grail War. An all-out brawl between 7 magus and their servants. Magus, magic users of this age. Servants, heroic spirits who exist outside of time. The 7 classes. Archer, Assassin, Berserker, Caster, Lancer, Rider, Saber. The Holy Grail, a relic with the capacity to grant one's wishes. I am Assassin class. She is also like me. A servant. Only a magus can summon a servant, thus she is also a magic user. She is Caster, the servant whose capacity of magic exceeds the limits of what is possible for a magus of this day and age. You are Caster, are you not? I ask calmly. A smooth smile appears on an expressionless visage, hidden under her hood. I am Caster. She agrees. Why did you summon me? I ask my second question. I summoned you to guard my camp. Whether servant or master, you shall allow no one to pass this gate, do you understand? There is a certain weight to her words, almost like the very act of speaking them compels me to obey. The compulsion isn't so strong that I can't resist. But doing so would provoke her into using one of her command spells to force me. I incline my head. I do, master. I shall protect these gates from any intruders who seek to do harm to my pretty master. It is the least I can do for the one who raised me from perdition. A sense of irritation emanates from Caster for a moment, before it vanishes and she turns away. Would it be acceptable if I took a moment to survey the city? I can't help the eager tone that slips into my voice. She pauses for a moment and without turning back speaks to me. Perform your duties as commanded. And I suggest you keep your impudent mouth shut. What a peculiar woman, I muse as she walks away. But, I have no complaints. She didn't use one of the command spells, so as long as I give some measure of protection to this gate I should be able to do as I wish. But it's dark now, and cold, now that I notice it. It should not be too much of a worry. This body doesn't have to remain material. The base component of this existence is my soul. A twinge of unrest surfaces within me at the concept of reverting to a spirit form. I think, even if it does give a measure of discomfort, I will remain as I am for now. A sigh escaped my lips as I slumped down against the stone steps beneath me. It really is a beautiful night. Fate, Eternia. Prologue. I ended up staying awake all night, watching the sky. It did not take long for the sun to peek its head up from the horizon. In addition, I now know which way is east. That can be useful to know. Like, if you are going to doze off, you can be sure not to face the direction of the sun in the morning, so that you don't get awoken by the unpleasant brightness. But I didn't get woken up by the bright sunlight because I didn't sleep. After a few hours I did begin to notice movement though, from inside the temple. Eventually a single person, a boy, probably not even 20, began to make his way towards the temple gate. He is definitely still in school. I can tell this because of my acute observation skills, which easily pick up that he is, in fact, wearing a uniform. Tanned pants with a matching coat and a simple white shirt. It is a simple uniform. He has black hair and elegant features. His eyes are sharp and are framed with glasses of a simple nature, ovals. They suit him. Before I can even consciously decide to, I can feel one of my inherent techniques folding over me, and in an instant, I match the boy's age and outfit. I glance down at my hands. Sure enough, a softer look has touched them. They are smaller, if only slightly, and my frame is decorated with the uniform. Henge used to be such a simple technique. A simple illusion overlaid the user and that sufficed, but this is something more. I can feel it, the texture has changed, as has the dimensions of my body and the material of my clothes. How odd it is that I have not used this technique since I was alive, and like second nature it takes a hold of me. My musings, while short as they were, took enough time that the boy noticed me, sitting on the steps in front of the gate. He has a stern look, though it seems he is not quite awake yet. He cannot manage to look me in the eye and retain that look, not when he yawns a moment later. "What are you doing?" he asks accusingly, and after a moment of pause, he shakes his head. "Shouldn't you be at school?" He rephrases his words without a hint of remorse. I grin. I'm new in town, and I'm not sure where the school is, so I trailed off and gestured out towards the city. I figured I'd see if I could see the school from here. It is a cop-out of an explanation, and yet somehow, he buys it. He nods acceptingly. Homarabara Gakuen, correct? I smile and nod. That's the one. He nods to himself. That is the school I attend, he informs me. You're welcome to join me on the walk towards school. That's troublesome. I figured he would just tell me where the school was and be on his very way. What a nice person he is. I smile broadly and stand up. I'd appreciate that. No more words are said, and he begins to walk down the stairs. I follow after a moment and skip a few steps, so I'm walking beside him. I glance back up at the gate as we walk. As I walk, a spark of my essence flows out from behind me, leaving me weaker, barely noticeable, but it was still there. The immaterial essence cascaded upon itself until it forms itself into a suitable vessel, suitable being a copy of all I am. A figure appears at the top of the steps. Cerulean eyes stare down at me, jovial and good-natured. A light smile plays upon their lips and cascades of blonde spikes threaten to overwhelm their vision. A sweeping houri of red with stylized flames of black lapping at the tail covers them. How odd. Do I really look like that? I look pretty cool, if I do say so myself. Although, that may be my pathological love of orange talking. My counterpart flickered and disappears after a moment. It's still there, just hidden, and at the very least Master shouldn't be able to tell that I so readily abandoned my post at the slightest drop of a hat. By the time we reach the bottom of the massive set of stairs, a few minutes have passed. We walked them in silence. Ah, that's right. I forgot to introduce myself. People do that, I'm sure. I'm Naruto, by the way, I said as he hit the street. I smile at my companion as he turns to me, and stick my hand out. Nice to meet you. A suspicious look overtakes the boy's visage as I hold my hand out. I frown internally. Did I do something wrong? I'm sure that the correct procedure was maintained. Introduced self, extend hand, yes, that's right. Perhaps I'm performing the incorrect actions for the time, or the place, or the state of politics. Ryudo Issei, the boy says after a moment of consideration, and he shifts his back to his opposite hand and grasps my hand firmly. Good to meet you. Ah, I see. I did nothing wrong. That's a relief. I smile gratefully and we continue on our way in silence. A few streets pass by. It's fun to just look at things, without having to blow them up. By the way, I wasn't informed that we had a new exchange student. Issei said suddenly, glancing at me out of the corner of his eye. Do you know why that is? A confused look registered on my face. Why would you? Issei's chest puffed up with pride. I am the student body president of Homarabara Gakuen. He informed me, before his look became neutral again and he stared at me, waiting for an answer. Oh fuck. He's unexpectedly devious. Maybe the paperwork didn't go through, I offer with a frown, and fold my arms across my chest. If that's the case it'll be troublesome, I lament. He seems suspicious, but he relents. He smiles again, and continues to look at me. That's a possibility, he nodded acceptingly, before smiling again. Where is your bag? My bag? My eyes flicker to the bag he carries in one of his hands. My bag. The bag that doesn't exist on account of me not actually being a student. Well, fuck. Again. I bite my bottom lip hesitantly. Issei's look of suspicion remains for a few moments before he chuckles in amusement. You're very absent-minded, he informs me with a friendly tone. Because it's your first day I imagine you're a bit nervous, right? It's understandable that you'd forget your belongings, but you should take care to be extra diligent to make up for it. He informs me with an air of responsibility. Really, what an odd kind of guy. We end up walking in amicable silence. On one side of us is the forest, and the other side is Fuyuki, or rather, the suburban area. However, the area closest doesn't seem to be for that purpose. In the distance I can see the built-up areas. But that isn't here. There are a few acres of green grassland, with a few houses built on them. Instead of walking towards the houses we take a turn south, and follow the edge of the forest. Eventually a large building comes into sight from, and then another exactly like it, beside it. The school is large and white. The front of it is lined with groomed trees, and the gate itself is black and embedded in an off-site stone. There are two buildings situated in the front. Each of them sit side by side. They're white, with a gray tiled sloping top, and 3 stories high. On the side of the furthermost right one I can see a glass pane down the side that reveals a staircase. I can only imagine it's the same for the one on the left. The entrance is open. On the left side is a plaque that has bled rust onto the white of the concrete wall it is affixed to. The ground for the entrance area is bricked over, and leads to the school and to a car park on the right. A single lamp post sits on the brick path surrounded by a small well-trimmed hedge. Issei walks onto the school premise without hesitation and I follow him. We pass the 2 front buildings and walk onwards. A secondary building appears attached to the right front building. Unlike the predecessor, the top of it isn't tiled, instead a gray mesh fence surrounds it. There are a few more buildings around. On the right side there seems to be an archery range, and on the left a single-story building that has a few adjacent buildings attached to itself. Which is where it seems Issei is taking me. We enter through the front and it takes me a few moments to realize. It's an office, probably the administration building for the school. He is very sneaky, or very helpful. The front desk is unmanned. It looks like nobody has arrived yet. That's good. It makes it much easier. As before I separate a slither of my energy and form it into an immaterial clone of myself. The newly created clone knows what I know. So it knows it needs to go into the rooms beyond, find the student documentation and make a shiny new entry for one Uzumaki Naruto. Soon to be known as Namikaze Naruto. Issei turns to me, oblivious to the fact a specter just walked right through him. I wonder why I did that. I could have easily walked around him. The staff should arrive soon, he informs me. He pushes his glasses up his nose. I'll wait for them to arrive and hand you over. Sounds like I'm a prisoner. Isn't it my responsibility as a prisoner to revolt and flee? It'd probably be counterproductive. Though, I can't help but wonder why I'm still here. I guess it could be called a pointless whim. I'm not that inclined to deviate from it. Like a devious delinquent, it'd be detrimental to my determination, after all. Or something like that. So, what can you tell me about the school? I ask casually. Issei smiles, and I tune him out as he starts to talk. Which isn't to say I'm ignoring him. I am simply delegating the responsibility of collecting the information he is providing to a lower level of my consciousness. The clubs are usually the first to arrive, he explains. There are athletic clubs, scholastic and hobbies. That's handy to know. I wonder if there is a throw pointy objects at people club. Usually the only clubs that arrive early in the morning are the athletic clubs. He lectures me. We passed the track team on the way through the grounds. The manager of the team is Segusa-san. I wonder if he realizes that a name of a person I haven't met means nothing to me. His diatribe is cut off short as the doors to the office open and a pretty woman in her mid-20s enters. She has short brown hair and a pleasant demeanor. The oddest thing I can see is that she is wearing a yellow and dark green striped shirt, under a dress of a lighter shade of green. I can't help but stare. Oh, Ryudu-san, she says in surprise as she notices Issei. Good morning, Fujimura-sensei. Issei replies politely. Yes, good morning, Ryudu-kun. I'm so happy you greet me properly. The smile that appears on her face really does add honesty to her words. She clasps her hands together and continues to smile. Is she really a teacher here? I wish I had a teacher like her when I was in the academy. Her good-natured smile is infectious, in a way. Is there an incorrect way to greet you, sensei? Issei asks in surprise. The woman identified as Fujimura drops her hands and pouts like a child. Of course there is. First years always greet me properly, but the older ones never greet me by my last name. You shouldn't copy their rudeness, okay? Issei seems offended that such a thing could occur. He seems to be stumped in silence. Fujimura finally takes notice of me. She looks surprised for a moment, before a welcoming smile takes shape. Who are you? She asks in a surprisingly blunt manner. I'm Namikaze Naruto, Fujimura-sensei. She becomes delirious with joy again. I'm a new transfer student, I inform her. She sighs contently and ignores me. I wish everyone was as respectful as you both, she murmurs before she blinks. And stares at me as if I had grown another head. That's impossible, she informs me. We don't have any students transferring in. She says so confidently. Before frowning and bringing a hand up to her lips. She bites down on a finger nervously. Did I forget? She murmurs under her breath. She turns to Issei and smiles again. While nice to see, it doesn't hold the same splendor as her previous Fujimura-sensei smiles. Thank you for assisting Namikaze-san, Ryudu-san. She says pleasantly. I will go to the student council room, he informs us before saying goodbye. Fujimura-sensei watches as Issei leaves, and then, when the door is shut and he cannot be seen, she turns back to me with a friendly smile. I'm Fujimura Taiga. She introduces herself and sticks her hand out towards me. I stare at it for a moment, surprised, before I smile genuinely and clasp it lightly. Namikaze Naruto. I introduce myself again and bring the offered hand up to my lips. I lay a light kiss upon the knuckle and let it go. The hand hovers in the air, and a stunned look appears on Fujimura Taiga's face. Slowly a blush filtered onto her cheeks, and she drops her hand. I must have done something wrong. She looks at me like I've grown another head, and then she smiles. Namikaze-kun, you're a good boy, she says in an honest way. I feel like a dog. Nonetheless, it's put her in an even better mood. Let's go find your papers. Without another word, she all but skips off to locate the papers. Which are 3 rooms behind the desk, adjacent to a break room. An influx of memories touch upon my mind in a sense of déjà vu. For example, I also now know that the papers were located in a filing cabinet, and that Ryudu Issei is in the 3rd year, which, I am, according to the newly fabricated documents, am also in. I also have the strangest craving for a walk through a park. I do not know why. Though, it could be said that I haven't walked through a park in a long time, and am well entitled to do so. There is a crashing sound, and a few minutes later Fujimura Taiga emerges from the rooms beyond the desks with a file in her hands. I found it, she declares happily. It was on the floor. I knew that already, I put it there, after all. She flips it open and takes a quick look through it. She seems happy enough with the forgery. And then, she frowns. It doesn't list your residency? She says surprised, before looking up at me for an answer. I'm staying at temporary accommodation right now, I lie through my teeth. She continues to frown but doesn't make a deal out of it. Everything seems fine, except that I wasn't aware you were transferring in. She frowns hard and stares down at the document accusingly, as if it was its fault for the unexpected event. Which is odd since you're in my roll call, she states, questioning the words written on the documentation. She snaps it shut after a moment and drops it onto the office desk. She turns to me and clasps her hands together and beams at me. It doesn't matter, does it, Namikaze-kun? Her voice takes on a song-like quality. Since you're new, you don't have a club, right? She stares at me expectantly. Do you want to join the club I manage? She beams at me as she asks. Okay, I agree easily. What kind of club do you run? Archery, she answers helpfully. With bow and arrows? I ask with a grin. She gives me a funny look, as if I asked a particularly dumb question. Which, I suppose it was. She dismisses it after a moment and begins to walk towards the exit, before pausing and frowning. After a few moments her eyes widen in surprise and she smiles at me apologetically. Namikaze-kun, I'm afraid I have a bit of work to do before I head to the archery range. Are you able to make it there by yourself? I saw it on the way here, I inform her. She nods happily before a serious look overtakes her. If I get there and you aren't there, it's the death penalty, okay? She mimics a gun with her fingers and points it at me. With a wink she says, bang, and turns away, laughing to herself. She walks off behind the front desk and disappears into the rooms beyond. Fujimura Taiga is a nice, if odd woman. I decide, if I was going to disappear, now would be the time to do it. Issei is gone to do student stuff and Fujimura is gone to do teacher stuff. I don't want to disappear and sit on the sidelines of life while I have the chance to spend it casually. This kind of boring stuff, I like. I think I do anyway. It's different than usual. No gore or screams. Even Fujimura's death threat was pleasant and lighthearted. It isn't too much trouble to spend my time here, I think. As long as Master doesn't notice I'm gone, it will be fine. However, it seems as though I might not have enough time to enjoy this. The casual pace and the lack of tension is easing it. But I can feel my energy draining, far faster than it should be. The energy I had would have sustained me for 20 more days and nights. I retain half of that. The other half remains at the temple disguising my absence. Even as I stand, still I can feel the energy draining away. What should be a second is 10 seconds. What was be a minute was 10 minutes. What will be an hour will be 10 hours. If I remain outside of the temple for a day, it will be 10 days. And I will disappear. Ignoring the half of my mana that remains at the temple gate, I have, since leaving the temple grounds, lost 3.5 hours worth of energy in the span of 20 minutes. I could survive off the grounds for a single day in my current state. Or 2 full days if I had all my mana available to me. I take a deep breath and close my eyes. I reach out with my senses. I touch the ground, the air, things that don't exist in the physical realm. Mana saturates the very world around me. It is always like that. This in my time was called natural energy. Every place has it. It is everywhere. Though, there are some areas where it is especially potent. Ryudo Temple happens to be one of them. Here, in the school, I can feel the energy coursing through the air and earth. I still my body, my muscles, and breath and slowly breath in. Like a gentle summer breeze, the mana in the air and earth draws towards me. To an outsider it would seem as though I am inhaling the mana. That is not the case. In opening myself up to the world, I become a part of the world. A whole that throws off equalization. To rebalance the world's mana pours into me until I am level with the world. Right now that is not the case. There is no full. I am a whole with a hole in my hole. Whatever I draw is immediately spent. While it allows me to maintain my mana level, it does not allow me to do anything else. I am a statue. If I move, I will stop drawing upon the world, and once again the world will greedily sink its fangs into me. But I need to move. I need to do something. Or else, being in such a position is pointless. It takes very little consideration before I open my eyes and begin to walk out of the building. Like a plug being pulled, my mana levels begin to plummet again at a steady, if too fast pace. The school is still mostly empty. People are beginning to arrive. The track team are still making their way around the yard, and it looks like the archery dojo is open. It has an excitable vibe to it. A steady thrum of positive energy. The building is in good condition, and even when compared to the rest of the school is particularly impressive. It's fair to say that on first glance it is obvious that it is a place of training. Training of what, however, is another matter entirely. There are no obvious signs from the front that it is an archery range. The entrance is open, and on either side is a metal grill that has been folded away so people can enter. The front is covered by a wooden awning, which itself is covered by a set of tiles. As I approach it, I absently reach up and run my fingers over the grain of the pillars of wood that they cover up. A light dusty film sticks to my fingers. The kind that you find on certain wooden structures. My village had a lot of buildings like that. There is a certain nostalgia to the feel as I rub my fingers together and ball the dust up. The floor inside the dojo is clean and glossy. It has a pleasant feel to it. That isn't to say any other part of the interior of the dojo doesn't match that kept nature. To the side there are a few low-level tables. The other side of the dojo opens up into a range. Like the interior of the dojo, it is well kept. The grass that covers the distance between the wooden floor and the targets is short and green. I notice, after my observations, that I am not alone. Inside the dojo at the side are two girls. They're sitting at one of the tables. Between them there are two empty cups, and aside a pot. They noticed me a while ago. They look to me in suspicion. Perhaps it's because I have a new face that hasn't been seen before. Can I help you? One of them asks me, her voice containing a small measure of annoyance. The one that speaks has brown hair that falls to her just above her shoulders. She has angular hazel eyes and a cute if not sharp face. She is wearing the school uniform, thus is a student. Fujimura-sensei told me to come here. I explained to her with a pleasant smile. She stares at me long and hard before her demeanor relaxes. She turns her gaze from me to the girl sitting opposite her on the table. The second girl is wearing a red coat over her school uniform. She has long black hair that reaches the small of her back. Parts are done up into twin tails, tied up by black ribbons. She has a slightly smaller frame than the first girl. Although that could be an optical illusion due to her smaller. I should probably take care of this. The first girl says to the second, before glancing back at me. I seem to have interrupted them. The black-haired girl calmly rises from the table in a smooth motion. That's fine, she says. It's almost time for the club members to arrive, right? I'll get going, but you stay and be a good captain. Her voice, while steady, cultured and measured, has a certain taunting quality to it. Like that between good friends. The brown-haired girl furrows her brow. What, you're not going to stay and watch? She says in disappointment. I wouldn't understand. Watching from a distance is fine, but outsiders shouldn't be in the range, should they? The brown-haired one glances at me. It doesn't seem to stop them, does it? What a low blow. I'm only here because Taiga threatened to shoot me with her finger pistol. As they talk, someone approaches from the outside of the front entrance. Good morning, Captain. A quiet, polite and feminine voice echoes. So the brown-haired one is the captain. I suppose I should make a good impression. Or perhaps I shouldn't. That could be fun. Fun but troublesome. The archery captain's gaze switches from me to the newcomer. Ah, morning, Matu. You're alone this morning? Yes. I'm sorry I couldn't be of help. The newcomer's voice takes on an apologetic quality. It's okay. If he doesn't want to come, there's no point forcing him to. The captain laments. I feel like such a side character, being ignored like this. Well, I'll be going. See you later, Mitsuzuri-san. The black-haired one says as she begins to leave. I for the first time see her face. For a moment light blue eyes match my gaze, and then sweep away in a single motion. Her face holds a calm and reserved demeanor. Yeah, see you later, Tasaka. Thank you for coming, Tasaka-senpai. Thanks. You take care too, Sakura. Mitsuzuri. Tasaka and Sakura. In one fell sweep I have learned the names of the captain of the archery club, Mitsuzuri. The black-haired girl, Tasaka. And the newcomer, behind me, who I haven't bothered to take notice of, Sakura. Tasaka leaves soon after saying her goodbyes, leaving me alone with Mitsuzuri and Sakura. Wait, Sakura. I knew someone by that name. Haruno Sakura, my teammate, my one-time crush, my friend. I turn away from those thoughts as quickly as they appear. The present isn't any time for the past. Are you going to answer? I snap out of my stupor to find the captain of the archery club facing me and talking to me. She has an annoyed expression. Sorry, could you repeat that? She stares at me for a moment, before sighing resignedly. What's your name? She asks, again. Namikaze Naruto. I introduce myself with a smile and hold out my hand to her. She looks at the offered hand for a second in silence, before smiling in amusement and clasping it. You're a weird guy, aren't you? She says such a rude thing easily. I like her. Like you wouldn't believe, I agree. Mitsuzuri Ayako. She introduces herself. She lets go of my hand and gestures behind me. And this is Matu Sakura. I interrupt her with the skill of a professional. I turn towards the otherwise unseen but known occupant of the archery dojo. Ah, I stare, I can't help it. This is what you call sympathy at first sight, isn't it? Matu Sakura is shorter than me. By a little less than half a foot. She has lavender hair that falls just beyond her shoulders. A dark pink ribbon ties part of her hair back and reveals the gentle curve of her neck. Her eyes are the same shade as her hair, and her facial structure is soft and lovely. She is stunningly pretty. And stunningly broken. I can see behind her composed outward expression the shy and timid look that she displays. The reserved and stoic positioning of her facial features. The clasping hands held in front of her. Something awful has happened to this one in front of me. And she endures. I feel a prod at my arm, and I suddenly realize I've stared too long, and that the target of my stare has visibly become nervous. You're staring, Ayako points out. Sorry, I apologize and smile sheepishly. I reach back and scratch the back of my head. Sakura smiles kindly and bows ever so slightly. Nice to meet you, Namikaze-san. The pleasure is all mine. I insist and hold out my hand. She stares at it for a moment, her smile falling, before she reaches forwards and clasps it softly. A gentle current passes from her hand to mine. I give her hand a gentle squeeze and let go. She stares. Please take good care of me, I say in jest. She looks away and a faint blush tinges her cheeks. Matu, can you watch him while I go and unlock the equipment? Ayako interrupts our heartfelt moment. Sakura draws back her hand and nods to her captain, smiling slightly. Ayako leaves the main area of the dojo. So, I remark casually. You're a magus? Matu Sakura freezes. Metaphorically, of course, or rather, her movement does. Though, considering the weather and how chilly it isn't inappropriate to suggest otherwise. What? She is startled, her eyes are wide and her shoulders are trembling. She averts her eyes from me. I don't know what you mean, she says, denying my question. I reach up and scratch my cheek. Sorry, I didn't realize you'd react that way to the question. The purple-haired girl stares at me, her expression going blank. I am not a magus, she states firmly and resolutely. I understand, I smile reassuringly. It does little good. She stares at me distressed. Her eyes alert. Do you have something you want to ask me? She bites her bottom lip. You're not a magus, she states clearly. I'm a ninja, I inform her helpfully. I am also a servant, but I don't think I'll tell her that. She stares at me distressed still, but that's okay. I step forwards and wrap my arms around her. She stiffens and goes rigid. I won't tell anyone, I say quietly into her ear. I promise. She relaxes, ever so slightly, despite the embrace from a stranger. Why are you here, Namikaze-san? She asks in a barely audible voice. Naruto, I urge her to call me. She bites her bottom lip. Why are you here, Naruto-san? I step back and hold her at arm's length. I smile in amusement, after all, she has asked a silly question. I am here to go to school, I inform her tauntingly. Her eyes go hollow for a moment, before a spark of will finds itself within them again. She nods mutely and lowers her gaze. Sakura-chan, I say the name lightly with a tinge of fondness, before I shake my head in bemusement. Doesn't feel right to call you that. I used to have a friend named Sakura, I tell her. She doesn't react. So what should I call you? I ask her kindly. This is what is called, allowing a target to define a relationship. She doesn't answer straight away. I drop my hands from her shoulder and gently nudge her chin up. Hey, I protest. Don't be so sad. Her gaze raises and meets mine. I feel like I'm staring into the black space between the stars and the night sky. I'm not going to hurt you. I tell her. I'm going to protect you. If you want me to. I finish resolutely. Her stare flickers with something akin to anguish. She bows her head. Please take good care of me, Namikaze-san. That is, unfortunate. Her words do not match her heart. The words that say, please help me, stranger. And the heart that says, please leave me alone, stranger. This isn't fiction, so I suppose such simple words with simple intentions can't reach something that is broken. If this was back in my day, I'd have punched her until we were friends. I know for certain that is not how people become friends these days. I suppose I'll have to take the long road to make a new friend, this time. Angry footsteps bang against the hardwood floor from the entrance. I drop my hand from Sakura's chin and take a step back, smiling at her reassuringly as I do. Who the hell are you? An angry, unpleasantly violent voice demands. I turn towards the entrance. Ah, this is what you call enmity at first sight, isn't it? A blue-haired boy is stomping on. He has the features of what you'd call a pretty boy, and has an aura of unpleasantness about him. His gaze is directed at me, though, when he notices Sakura it flares up ever so slightly. He reaches us and grabs for Sakura's arm. Or tries to. As he tries, he finds a hand firmly gripping his wrist. Mine, to be specific. What are you doing? I ask him calmly. He sneers and yanks his arm out of my grip. Or tries to. He fails and manages to hurt himself. He takes a moment and recomposes himself and looks down upon me. Which is a feat, considering that he is shorter than me. She's my sister, stay out of family business. He says such a thing like it matters. I sigh, and as he attempts to yank his arm free again, I let go. He stumbles backwards. Geez, if you're her brother, that means what you're doing is worse. A brother is supposed to protect his sister, I lecture him condescendingly. He stares at me in undisguised loathing. What are you doing here? He repeats with faux calm. Outsiders aren't supposed to be in the dojo. He pauses and actually looks at me for the first time. I've never seen you before either, he states. I smile widely and hold out my hand to him. I'm Namikaze Naruto, I introduce myself. I'm a new transfer student. Please treat me well. The look he gives is worth of being remembered, the anger, the rage, the indignation. Plus, he doesn't shake my hand. What a bastard. That doesn't explain what you're doing here, he all but spits out. Fujimura-sensei told me to come here, I answer easily, with no small measure of satisfaction. He grits his teeth together, and after a moment he gives a brittle smile. Welcome to the club, he says through gritted teeth and turns to face Sakura. Sakura, he barks out. You shouldn't associate with strangers, do you understand? Before Sakura can react, I hold up my hand. That would be my fault, I admit easily and without fault. I was the one who started talking to her. He glares at me before sneering and stomping off again. I can't help but notice that he doesn't try to grab her arm again. I feel a measure of satisfaction. I glance to Sakura again, she is biting her bottom lip. I smile at her, though she can't see. I told you I'd protect you. She casts her gaze down further, muttering something that sounds suspiciously like, thank you, under her breath. An awkward sort of silence sets in between us. It's soon broken by the return of Ayako. As she appears from the storeroom, she casts Sakura's brother an annoyed look. A second later, she approaches him and begins berating him for not cleaning up the equipment store. So, I begin to say, what's your brother's name? I ask her casually. Shinji, she answers. The way the name falls from her lips feels unpracticed. The sound of more footsteps from the front of the dojo echo inwards. The rest of the club seems to be arriving. Soon a steady stream of students walks in, chatting amongst themselves. I receive a few speculatory glances as they see me, but soon I am dismissed and they walk on. I notice that Sakura is beginning to get nervous again. Go on, I urge her. You want to practice, right? She nods and then moves away, to the back of the room, where Ayako had reappeared. Standing in the middle of a dojo as people walk around me seems pointless. But I don't know where to go. Thankfully the choice is taken out of my hands. Namikaze-kun, a voice exclaims happily. I turn towards the door. Fujimura Taiga has come, and she is happy. All is good with the world. Fujimura-sensei. I greet her. She all but flutters. I'm glad you came, she informs me. She looks around the dojo, her eyes sparkling. Have you already met everyone? I scratch my cheek. I've met Ayako, Shinji and Sakura. She nods in approval. Our captain, vice captain and Sakura-chan. I approve. Sakura's brother is the vice captain? That's unpleasant. I glance over towards him. Sure enough, as his looks and personality dictates, a group of girls surrounds him, each hanging on his every word as one would expect. Also, not much of a surprise is his expression as he talks to them. One would call it fake. Though perhaps it isn't, perhaps he is only satisfied when he is surrounded by pretty girls hanging on his every word. Either way, it isn't pleasant. With a brother like that, no wonder Matu Sakura is as she is. Fujimura follows my gaze and she looks on in disapproval as well, but makes no move to break the group apart. I'm glad you're not a playboy like Matu-kun, Namikaze-kun. Me too, I would probably have to friendship myself to death if I ever found myself like that. For a small while Fujimura and I talk about small things. By the time the rest of the club has arrived, I found myself genuinely affectionate for the teacher. She has a refreshingly genuine personality. Throughout our discussion I've noticed Shinji sending the occasional look of irritation at me. It seems what he was waiting for has finally arrived. Taiga-sensei, is it true that you've invited a new member without consulting the vice captain? Shinji says loudly, catching every member's attention easily. Fujimura Taiga looks at the blue-haired ass in surprise. Is it a problem? Shinji smiles. Sensei, it's just, we don't know if he can even shoot a bow. He glances towards me. Have you ever used a bow before? Nope, I answer cheerfully. He smiles in a somewhat victorious way. You see, Tiger? How can we attract some good talent in the new term if we pick up freeloaders? There is a general consensus that agrees with Shinji. Fujimura-sensei stares blankly at Shinji, and a sudden look of fear manifests itself on his face. Who the hell are you calling Tiger? Taiga roars. If I say he can join, then he can join. Shinji flinches and steps back. Taiga glares at him sullenly. Matu Shinji is taken aback, and after a few seconds recomposes himself and tries his luck again. It'd be fair to let him to try and fail before we kick him out of the club, at the least. He is finding more and more ways to annoy me. That's fair. I agree easily. I turn towards Taiga and smile. It's fair, right, Fujimura-sensei? She switches her gaze from Shinji to me and her glare is lost. She looks at me for a moment, before smiling and nodding. It's fair. She agrees, but not before casting Shinji another mild glare. She doesn't approve of Shinji. I like her more and more. Can I borrow a bow? One of the nearby members, a somewhat plain-looking girl, moves forwards and attempts to hand me her bow. It is an odd black bow made of carbon fiber. I don't even wonder how I know what it is when before today I had never seen such a thing. Hold on. Shinji stops the girl from handing over the bow. It's an unfair advantage to use such a good piece of equipment. He explains. He smiles at me coldly. It's only fair if he uses some of the dojo equipment, since he didn't bring his own. He pauses and regards me. You didn't bring a bow, did you? I didn't, I agree. I just asked if I could borrow a bow, didn't I? He glares at me, but his smile widens all the same. He goes back into the equipment room, and a minute later he returns with a bow in hand. A wooden one that looks like it is worn to its limits. He thrusts it in my hand along with a quiver of 3 arrows. He gestures towards the range, and with an annoyed look barks for the members to get out of the way. He turns back to me and smiles viciously. Whenever you're ready, Naruto-kun. It's the first time he said my name. And it feels like a leech is crawling over my skin as it leaves his throat. I step around him and move towards the range. Do I stand here? I ask. Another member attempts to instruct me, but again Shinji interrupts. Don't tell him, he says harshly. You stand a bit closer, and in front of the target. Who's Shinji begins to ask angrily, before he's confronted by someone he hadn't seemed to expect. Mitsuzuri Ayako glares at Shinji and silences him with her look. Vice Captain, please step back and allow me to instruct our newest recruit. Shinji is taken aback by Ayako's sudden interruption. He grits his teeth and smiles at Ayako. Of course, Mitsuzuri. Ayako approaches me and assists me with getting ready. She begins to lecture me on the proper motions and technique to draw the bow. Thank you for helping, Ayako, but I think I've got it. I smile at her genuinely. She stares at me hard, appraising my words, before nodding and stepping back. She smiles. Good luck, Naruto-kun, she says with a smile. A sound is made from the crowd. Hey, Taiga protests quietly. Not even I call him Naruto-kun yet. She seems disappointed that someone is on better terms with me than she is. It's cute. I draw an arrow from the quiver that sits on the ground and place it against the shaft of the bow. I draw back and take aim. It seems simple enough. Draw, aim, fire. Breathe in, breath out. Just like throwing kunai and shuriken. Behind me I can hear some of the crowd chortling. I line up the bullseye at the opposite end of the range and let loose the string. There is a satisfying moment as the arrow is fired and the swish of it leaving the bow touches my ears. And a second one as the arrow strikes the target at the other side of the range. I lower the bow in my arm and look on in surprise, and not so mild satisfaction. The arrow struck the target on its dead center. A fine shot if I do say so myself. Beginner's luck. Shinji snapped from somewhere behind me. Take your next shot. I turned and grinned at the blue-haired boy. If I get another bullseye, how about I take your position as vice captain? He glares at me indignantly, before smiling a winning smile. Of course, he agrees. And if you get all 3, I'll let you go on a date with my sister. Matu. Ayako snaps. He glances to her dispassionately. What? He asks brazenly, before turning back to me. If you miss them, then you have to leave and never come back, alright? I grin. Sounds like a deal. I pick up the second arrow, and take aim at the target down the range. I steady my breath and gaze down the length of the arrow. I take a moment to compose myself and draw the bowstring back an extra inch. The string all but slips from between my fingertips as I let go. Swish. Thud. Crack. The archery club stares in slack-jawed surprise. And I can't blame them. Not when my own lips have parted in equal amounts. That's impossible. Shinji snarls. You must have cheated somehow. Impossible? I echo. Extremely unlikely, maybe. No, that's impossible. He repeats angrily and stomps forwards. They're not broadhead arrows, it's physically impossible to split an arrow with one. I gesture down the range, to the target, to where my second arrow is deep into the target, covered by the splinters of its predecessor. Looks like it isn't. He glares at me accusingly. Very impressive, Namikaze-kun. Taiga exclaims, her voice happy, but confused. You're a perfect fit for an archer. My cheeks tinge lightly at the praise. Shinji attempts to snatch the bow from my hand. I hold it away from him and smile widely. Now Shinji-kun. I say, my voice sickly sweet. I still have to win a date with your sister, don't I? The anger on his face melts away. What did you say? He asks quietly. You said if I get all 3 shots I get a date with your sister, right? I grin widely. I've already got your vice captain seat, so why not go for the third, final and best prize? Out of the corner of my eye I can see Matu Sakura ducking her head in embarrassment. Shinji takes a step back. I was kidding, he stammers. I frown. You were? I say with mock disappointment. That's a shame. I move to pick up the final arrow. I wink at him. Never leave a job half finished. I set the arrow, draw the string, and let loose. Swish. Thud. I look on in mild disappointment. My shot hits the outside of the bullseye. I was aiming for the middle again. I announce with disappointment. I sigh and hand Shinji my bow. I guess I wouldn't have gotten that date after all, eh, Shin-chan? He bristles in anger. There is a low rumble of laughter from the rest of the club, that disappears as Shinji turns towards them. What are you all standing around for? He snarls. Don't you have practice to do? He stomps off and thrusts the bow into the hands of one of the girls at the front, who doesn't seem inclined to get in the way of the blue-haired dinosaur's rampage. I stare after Shinji in obvious satisfaction. The brown-haired Ayako approaches with a smile of approval. Very nice shooting, she praises me, but he was right, you know. She glanced down the range. That shouldn't have been possible. She grins at me and asks in a conspirator whisper. Did you cheat? I laugh her question off. I'm just very lucky, I tell her in amusement. She laughs as well. Some luck. The classroom. In the end, the archery club ends without further event and a bell rings. The club members begin to file out of the dojo and head their separate ways. I'm left sitting with Taiga and watching everyone leave. I have a cup of tea in my hands. It's become cold since it's been poured. I haven't even sipped it. I wonder if that's considered bad manners. Taiga sighs. I suppose we should go as well, Namikaze-kun. Naruto. I say to her. She stares at me in mild confusion. Call me Naruto, I insist. Her eyes widen and she brings a hand up to her mouth. She covers a small laugh. That's very forward of you, Namikaze-kun. I blink. Is it? I ask aloud. She sighs and slowly straightens up. I suppose that's what happens when you're mixed. Mixed? I echo. She gives me a strange look. Or rather, she looks at me as though I'm strange. One of your parents wasn't Japanese, correct? Technically neither were Japanese. That's right. She smiles and points at my nose. You have blonde hair, blue eyes and tan complexion. She suddenly exclaims. Clearly you're mixed race. She puffs her chest up proudly and drops her hand. That's impressive, I say dryly. How do you figure that out, Fujimura-sensei? She stares at me plainly before sighing. I just told you, Namikaze-kun, she lectures me. I give up. I surrender. I hold my hands up in defeat. If I had a white flag I'd wave it. You win, Fujimura-sensei. I inform her. She smiles happily and claps her hands together once. What's my prize? You don't get one. She pouts like a child. What's the point in winning then? She dismisses my answer preemptively with a wave of her hand. We need to get to class, she informs me with a smile. Of course, I agree with her. She begins to walk out of the dojo. We're the last 2 left. As I step out of the front, she begins to close the gate behind me and locks it. Inside, the archery equipment is still abound. I suppose they aren't finished with it for today. We walk towards the school buildings chatting. Or rather, Taiga is the one who is talking. I am listening. A comment here and there, and she doesn't realize it's a mostly one-sided conversation. Taiga smiles at me sincerely. Have you decided what kind of bow you're going to get? She asks me. I scratch my cheek. I hadn't planned to actually buy one. The one I used was pretty good, I inform her. Do you think I could keep using it? She frowns. It isn't the best quality, she informs me. The balance is off and it tends to throw off shots. I did pretty good with it though, didn't I? I grin at her. She nods with a serious expression. You did very well, she praises me. It's embarrassing to hear good words come from such a serious expression. She smiles after a few moments. You're in my homeroom and my club, she begins to say, before her expression becomes serious again. If you become a delinquent I won't forgive you, she informs me. Is that like, a bad student? She nods. If you get bad grades and skip classes I won't forgive you. She winks. 1,000 years of punishment. I laugh and a few moments later Taiga follows in suit. By the time I've noticed we're already inside the 3-story tall building and heading to the second floor. We pass very few students on the way. It seems as though most of them have already entered their classrooms. I glance over at Taiga. She seems to be in a good mood. She is holding a clipboard to her chest and has a small bounce in her step. She notices my glance and smiles at me. Here we are, Namikaze-kun. We've stopped in front of a classroom door. Inside I can hear people talking. Now, don't be nervous, she tells me. And if you have any problems with anyone don't hesitate to call me, unless it's a girl or another boy being mean to you. She lectures. If you're a man then you should grab a problem by its sides and shake it up and down until it begs for forgiveness. What an oddly zen-like statement. Of course, Fujimura-sensei. Now just wait here, and when I call your name, enter, okay? I nod. She beams at me and slides the door open. Good morning class, she exclaims happily as she enters. Good morning Taiga-sensei. The class returns the greeting. I patiently wait to hear my name called. Taiga begins to list off names, and after everyone someone replies with a, here. It's just like my old academy, except with less pointy objects. I smile in nostalgia. Namikaze-kun. Ah, that's my cue. I slide the door open and enter. I'm greeted with the sight of the classroom. Seats filled with teenagers with identical uniforms, and a single green, yellow and black adorned teacher at the head of the classroom. My gaze sweeps over the students and I catch a few familiar faces. Ryudo Issei smiles and nods his head almost imperceptibly. Alternatively, Matu Shinji glares at me with barely restrained contempt. A small frown touches my lips. It seems Ayako isn't here. That's a shame. I recognize a few other faces from the archery club, but no one I've talked with. I smile at the group and raise a hand. Mornin', I greet them. At the front of the classroom Taiga frowns disapprovingly. I cough and bring up my hand to my mouth. I begin again and smile pleasantly. Good morning, I look forward to working with you all. I glance to Taiga and see her nodding approvingly. I hold in a laugh and smile at my classmates again. Please take good care of me. They stare back at me blankly. Taiga lightly applauds. Very good, Namikaze-kun. She peers across the room. There is a spot in the back row, next to the window. At the back of the room, next to an open window is an empty seat. Thank you Fujimura-sensei. I stroll towards it, a smile on my lips. I purposely walk past Shinji and smile at him. He glowers back at me but does little else. I sit down at my newly appointed seat and let out a pleased sound. Around me the students are beginning to chat. Some are talking about pointless subjects. Others are casting looks towards me and talking. Tiger seems happy today, one student says to another. A hand is slammed against a desk. Did someone just make fun of me? Taiga demands to know from the front of the room. No, we didn't. Maybe you imagined it? Taiga's rage disappears. All right, good. Then I'll continue. She begins to talk casually, informing the class of announcements. In between them, she talks casually so it passes slowly. Which is fine, it has a pleasant atmosphere. The window beside me opens up into the forest of trees that surround the back and sides of the school. A gentle scent wafts into the classroom. It smells like peaceful summers. Pardon me, Namikaze-san. Someone calls my assumed name. I tilt my head back and look for the source. It takes me very little time to find it. In front of me a young girl has turned around and faced me. She has a light complexion, medium length, wavy blonde hair and blue eyes. She has a playful look about her, and has a smile affixed to her lips. Nice to meet you, my name is Sawada Riza, she introduces herself. I smile at her good-naturedly. Nice to meet you Riza-chan. She smiles and giggles of all things. Call me Riza, she insists. Call me Naruto, I counter offer. We negotiate terms and soon our bargain is made. How do you find the school? I ask her. Her lips part for a moment and a thoughtful look overtakes her. Well, she trails off. It's a good environment and everyone is friendly. She supplies. How come you're transferring in? I have some business in Fuyuki, I answer easily. So everyone, please note the curfew. It's at 6 o'clock, so people with club activities shouldn't stay too late either. Taiga's voice breaks through the conversation and draws the students' attention to her. Some students make sounds of disapproval. What? 6 o'clock is too early, Taiga-sensei. Can't the athletic clubs be exempted? Taiga frowns. Nope. And please address your teacher as Fujimura-sensei. I'll get mad if you call me that again. She settles her hands on her hips and glares at the offending student, before her gaze sweeps over towards me and a happy smile momentarily makes itself known. All right, I'll be careful. I wonder what he's referring to. The clubs, or Taiga-sensei. A moment later he sits back down again and seems to zone out. Well, that's it for today's homeroom. She informs the room and closes her clipboard. Let's meet again in English class in second period, everyone. Taiga leaves, waving her hand at the class. As she leaves, a man enters the room. My instincts begin to scream at me the moment our eyes make contact. Kill him, kill him, kill him, because he is dangerous. He is a well-built man, as tall as I am normally. He wears a dark green suit and has angular glasses. His face holds little to no emotion. There is no light behind his dull black eyes. He is a normal human being. So why is he dangerous? He places his belongings on the podium up the front of the classroom and his eyes sweep over the classroom. Our eyes make contact again and he maintains my gaze for a few seconds before blinking. Who are you? He asks. I smile at him. Namikaze Naruto, I introduce myself. I just transferred in today. He says nothing for a few moments. Is that so? He murmurs and does not dispute what I have said. His name is Kazuki Sushiro. He teaches world history. He has a stern demeanor and has a strict personality. He begins to teach the class and all but ignores my presence. Which is good. I can deal with this kind of teacher. He lectures the class and then tells them to open their books. Books which I don't have. I receive a few strange looks from my fellow classmates, but no one makes a fuss. The class continues and eventually ends with a ring of a bell. The class was boring. The only way it could have been more so was if I had to actively participate in it, instead of watching the clouds float by in the sky. Kazuki leaves and my instincts stop screaming for his head. The rest of my classmates begin to pack up their belongings and begin to head to their next class. In front of me, Riza stands up and begins to leave. Ah, Riza, I called to her. She stops in mid-step and turns back to me, with a surprised look. Naruto, what class do we have next? She laughs softly and smiles. It's second period, she informs me teasingly. What's so English with Fujimura-sensei? I offer my guess. She nods. Can I follow you? I ask. She bites her bottom lip, before nodding with a smile. Of course, she agrees. She waits until I've stood and caught up to her. Out of the corner of my eye, I catch Issei giving me a look of disapproval. Besides him, an orange-haired student watches on with amusement. I hum to myself and follow Riza out of the classroom, careful to stay a few steps behind her. We exit the classroom and enter into the hallway, which, at the beginning had been empty, and now was full to the brim. Riza makes her way through the throngs of people with some hesitation. I follow in her wake with much less difficulty, though, I note, I draw a few stares. Do I look that odd? Or perhaps they just like the tune I am humming. Eventually we arrive at a second classroom. There are students already inside, chatting amongst themselves. We enter and I am greeted with a set of different faces and the smell of food. I pause momentarily and Riza glances back at me. She smiles abashed as the students in the room take notice of me and stare with mild interest, the majority of which are girls. Riza grasps me by the hand and pulls me towards the middle of the classroom where 3 students are sitting around a desk and talking. Or it looks like that was the case before I interrupted. The 3 are staring at me, as the rest are, openly curious. Who's that? One of them blurts out and stares past Riza at me. Her eyes flicker to Riza for a moment before turning back to me. This girl has short black hair that has been trimmed and cut in a tomboyish fashion. Not to say it's scruffy, just short. She has a slight tan and delicate Japanese features. She is what you'd call a Japanese beauty. The words that fall from her lips contradict her looks. I like her. Riza smiles at the girl. This is Naruto, she introduces me happily. He just transferred into school today. Why'd you bring him here? The same girl asks brashly. Riza is beginning to get flustered. I asked her to bring me, I supply, catching the girl off guard. I thought she was going to the next class, I hadn't realized it was lunch. I look pointedly at my female companion. She smiles unabashed. I turn my gaze back to the black-haired girl and hold out my hand. Nice to meet you. She stares at it as if it were an alien probe. I frown and drop my hand. I glance to the other two at the table. The two that have remained silent stare at me. One has brown hair cropped to her shoulders. She isn't terribly beautiful but has a gentle presence. As our eyes make contact she smiles. It's a warm smile that I can't but help but return wholeheartedly. She breaks gaze and looks down at her desk. The final girl has long pale gray hair that has had the fringe trimmed and eyes just as odd that try to hide behind glasses. She has a very calm and neutral expression on her face, but her eyes fail to guard her emotions. She is clearly curious about the new transfer student. Somehow, a casual glance has turned into an unspoken staring contest. The girl's eyes begin to become glassy. I blink on purpose, and she follows suit, her eyes momentarily fluttering. Who says I can't be kind now and then? I smile and stick out my hand towards her. Nice to meet you, I say with honesty. She reaches for my hand and gives it a light shake. Himuro Kane, she says with a calm and steady voice. I smile and turn my gaze to the brown-haired girl sitting behind the desk. And you are? I press. Segusa Yukika. She speaks her name in a small voice. I consider offering my hand, but she looks as though she'd all but faint if I did. I glance back to the first girl. She is looking at me with clear irritation. It was nice to meet you all. I glance back at Riza and smile. I'm going to head back to the classroom. That's where we have the next class, isn't it? She laughs and nods. You're sneaky, I inform her and turn away. Hey, what about me? The black-haired girl demands from behind my back. I pause in step and glance back. What about you? I ask lightly. She glares. Aren't you going to ask my name? She asks sourly. I guess I could. I turn back and face her. Makadera Kaide. I grin victoriously. Nice to meet you, Kaide-chan. She maintains my gaze for a moment before turning away and, you too, she says in a subdued voice. I laugh lightly. See you later, I say my goodbyes and turn to leave. What a weirdo. Kaide says as I step out of the classroom. Why'd you bring a guy like him here? She complains to presumably Riza. If I had to do a comparison, Makadera Kaide would be Kiba, Segusa Yukika would be Hinata, and Himuro Kane would be Shino. I chortle to myself as I retrace the path that brought me to the classroom. Team 8 exists in a different, all-female form. The thought keeps a smile on my face. With happy thoughts present, I allow my feet to lead me. In the end they lead me away from the classroom, and up towards the 3rd floor, and then, further up to a non-existent 4th floor. The staircase leads to an open door and a cold breeze. The cold winter air befazes me as I step out onto the roof. It's not entirely unpleasant, and it's empty, devoid of students. I absently walk to the edge of the roof and take in the schoolyard. Students are going about their lunches, talking in groups, sitting by themselves, or heading to their next destination. There are groups of 5 and more. There are individuals by themselves. There are areas that are empty and those that are full. And there is someone else on the roof with me. A black-haired girl has appeared on the roof. Whether she was here when I arrived, and I hadn't noticed her, or whether she appeared afterwards, I do not know. She is the same girl that was at the archery range when I arrived. She has an aloof and unapproachable atmosphere around her. I step away from the edge of the roof and make my way off the roof. The roof, despite its large size, and its lack of students, is now too crowded for both of us to remain. My feet hit the stairs of the stairwell, the winter air seems to weigh heavily on my shoulders. Or perhaps it is simply the constant drain that is leaving me feeling unpleasantly burdened. The students part as I walk, whether out of conscious decision or unconscious action I'm not sure. I get off at the 2nd floor and make my way to the classroom where world history was taught to me. I arrive at the classroom and am greeted to a less than full room. There are a few students sitting around, mostly girls. I make my way to the seat I had been given by Taiga and sit down. I am beginning to remember how little I enjoyed being in class back when I was younger. When I would ditch class and simply go and watch the clouds float by in the sky. I could do that. I could disappear from here and return to the temple. I could lay down on the temple steps and stare at the sky. I could watch the clouds float away, watch day turn into night and watch as the stars light up the darkness. But I don't think I will. I want to meet new people. I want to make new memories. I want to feel the happiness that comes from interacting with another soul without steel or fist. Maybe I even want to hold someone's naked body against mine. Or maybe I want to do all of those things at once. As I wonder about what I want, students begin to filter back into the classroom. Unfamiliar faces and familiar ones begin to appear. Someone, Riza, someone, Issei, someone pokes my head. I glance to the front of the desk and the blonde-haired schoolgirl known as Riza is prodding me with her finger. "Are you okay?" she asks and smiles once she has my attention. "You seem a little spaced out," she informs me. "Just thinking," I explain to her. "If you think too hard you'll just get a headache," she says with a grin and brushes her hair over her ear. "You should try to keep an open mind," she says with cheer. "If you open your mind too much your brain will fall out," I retort without considering my words. Which is odd. Not that I didn't consider what I was saying, that is common. What is odd is that I've never known that phrase. So why do I know it? Riza stares at me in mild surprise, and a light laugh falls from her lips. "That's a good one," she praises me. "Where did you read it?" I shrug my shoulders. "I can't remember," I answer honestly. She doesn't seem to believe me, but she lets it go. "You could have stayed, you know," she says after a few moments. Maki-chan might have been a bit rude, but she asked a few questions about you after you left. Riza seems to be trying to tease me. What did she want to know? I ask. Riza waves her hand dismissively. This and that, she brushes the question off. The bell rings. A few seconds pass. The door to the classroom opens and Taiga strolls into the room in apparent high spirits. The students begin to sit down and stop talking. "I had a good lunch," she informs the class happily. She talks to the class, and soon enough without boundary the class starts. She begins to write on the board as she talks. The sound of chalk against the blackboard fills the room, the constant scratching of short strokes. Without warning she spins around and points towards the back row. Specifically to the window side. "Where I am sitting, Namikaze-kun," she declares. "Read this." She steps aside and reveals a board full of writing. I open my mouth. "Ah, stand up." She cuts me off and commands. I scratch my cheek and stand up. Before I begin to recite the words on the board as I do she looks on with apparent delight that turns to surprise. By the time I'm finished she grins and claps happily. "Very good," she praises me. "Where did you learn English?" "English?" I echo. I glance at the board again. There is an odd language on it that I understand. I understand it because it is a common language these days that is used around the world. The Holy Grail implanted it in my mind when it summoned me. "I dunno," I answer after a few moments and laugh it off. She accepts my answer and claps her hands lightly. "Very impressive still," she continues to praise. She pauses and a look of consideration appears on her face. She turns around and begins to clear off the blackboard. As soon as she is finished she begins to write again. "Read this one," she instructs me. I do so. The words flow off my tongue as though it were a natural language. But then, I speak Japanese with the same fluency. A language that didn't exist during the time of my life. A language that holds no ties to the one I spoke when I was alive. For the eternity that I've existed as Elias Sword I cannot remember ever speaking, words ever leaving my lips since the approach of the white beast. I was summoned, and I knew what to do. There was no exchange of information outside of awareness. By the time I am finished reciting the words on the board Taiga is staring at me in barely restrained glee. "That's very impressive, Namikaze-kun," she exclaims in the odd language. "Thank you, Fujimura-sensei," I reply and the language that passes from my lips changes. Taiga's eyes narrow. "How are you finding the school so far?" she asks me with a victorious grin. "It's fun," I respond. "It's been fun meeting new people." Taiga's lips part in surprise. The rest of the class looks at me with a strange look. Even Riza who is sitting in front of me has a look of disbelief. Taiga shakes. And quivers. And suddenly she bursts into life. "Amazing," she gushes. "You have a very good handle on your languages. You don't seem to need this class at all." She is giddy, and suddenly, she frowns, and ponders and pouts. "You don't need my class," she whines. The exuberant tiger is suddenly depressed. "How embarrassing. Fujimura-sensei," I begin to say awkwardly. I glance around the room and after a moment of concentration speak in English. "A student always needs a teacher, right?" She continues to sulk. "And Fujimura-sensei is a good teacher, so." I trail off, unsure of what to say. "It's be even more awkward to say, because you're the teacher, and I like you, I want to come to class." She sniffs in an exaggerated fashion. "You're so nice, Namikaze-kun." She glances at the rest of the class and turns her nose up. "I wish everyone could be as nice as you." The majority of the class looks uncomfortable. Ah, the final attack of a wounded tiger. How? A lance of pain erupts in my chest and pierces through my lungs, and a rush of memories flood my mind along with a spike of energy. I gasp for breath and clutch my chest. The clone has been dispelled. Or in this case, killed. In this case by Master. The deception lasted a while, but it was eventually caught out. The last memory of the clone I had left to guard the gate was the look of barely hidden anger that Master had on her visible face, along with the sudden lack of air in my lungs, and lungs in my chest, and chest in general. "Are you okay?" Someone touches me upon the shoulder. I look up suddenly in response and the hand disappears. Issei stands beside me with a look of concern on his face. "Fine," I mumble under my breath. I glance to the head of the classroom to a worried-looking Taiga. I smile embarrassedly. "Do you think I could go outside for a breath of fresh air, Fujimura-sensei?" Taiga nods silently and seems to resist the urge to approach me by herself. "Thanks, Issei," I say with a smile, slip around the desk, and quickly make my way out of the classroom. The moment the door closes behind me, I rush towards the staircase and head towards the roof. As soon as my foot fits the concrete roof, I tear a chunk of my energy off and mold it into another clone. A replica of myself appears in front of me. I give it a once-over to make sure it looks the part and then send it back to class. I run towards the edge of the building, towards the direction of Ryudo Temple, and jump into the air. As I do, I shed my physical form and revert to a spiritual entity. As I do, I fly through the air, back towards the gate, where Master is waiting. Lacking physical form is an odd thing to experience. The lack of a distinct boundary of self. It's unpleasant at the best of times. But it is useful. There is no pause in my immaterial strides. I pass through air, wood, and stone alike. It takes me very little time to reach the base of pathway leading to Ryudo. The time it takes for me to return is measured in seconds rather than minutes. The journey from the bottom to the top takes mere moments, and at the top I am confronted with an expected figure. The cloaked figure of Castor, my master, looks down upon me. The hood that covers her face hides her expression, but I can still feel the irritation that radiates from her. I revert to physical form as I approach and stop upon the stairs. Silence passes between us for a few seconds. Before she lifts her hand and pain. My vision goes red as unbridled agony rips through my arm. What is this? I gasp for air and grit my teeth. I clutch at my arm, or what was my arm. My fingers touch upon a bloody stump where my hand used to be. What the hell? I snarl at her. Haven't you heard of proportionate retribution? I demanded to know and forced myself to ignore the pain of having my hand exploded. Master drops her hand to her side and a cold smile appears on her lips. "Oh, perhaps you would have preferred as I had scolded you and sent you to your room?" I steadied my breath. "Do you have any idea how annoying it is to regenerate missing body parts?" I asked slowly. Master's lips part in surprise. "You can regenerate?" she asks me. I stare at her blankly. "You blew up my hand, and you didn't know if I could heal it?" I can't contain my disbelief. She doesn't answer, and watches me patiently. I briefly wonder what she is waiting for, before I realize it. I reach up with my good hand to the necklace I wear. My fingers wrap around the bluish-green jewel. A wave of nostalgia hits me at the touch of Tsunade's necklace. It isn't the real one, of course. The true necklace had been destroyed during the battle with pain. I focus my will and bind the effects of the necklace. A rush of primal energy rises up inside me and threatens to overwhelm my consciousness. I mercilessly crush its intent and focus on directing the flow. My ruined arm begins to burn with heat as my mana pools in the limb. I close my eyes, extend the energy, focus it, collapse it, restrain it, contain it, The heat begins to give way to numbness and I open my eyes. A sigh escapes me as I stare down at my newly reformed arm. I flex the fingers and smile in relief. Consciously regenerating is a bitch and a half. For some reason mindless regeneration is so much easier and more efficient. But along with that comes the destruction of everything in a 100-meter radius. You lied to me, Master states calmly. You did not regenerate your limb, you recreated it with your mana. I shrug my shoulders. Is there a difference? Master remains silent. I frown. You're not going to do it again, are you? I ask with mild trepidation. She doesn't give an immediate answer. I have yet to decide, she says, answers with a measure of honesty. But you already exploded my lungs, I protested. And I protected the gate, didn't I? Master's lips thin and she raises a hand. A sudden weight settles over my body. I feel like I'm being crushed under 1,000 leagues of water. You exist because I have deemed it proper. If you do not fulfill the duties I assigned to you, then you will end because I decree it. Do you understand, servant? I grit my teeth and bear it. Of course, Master, I agree. It wouldn't do to antagonize the one who holds my reins. She gestures for me to approach her. I approach her with understandable caution. A cruel smile slips onto her lips and she reaches forwards to me, and places her hand on my chest. I stare down at it and watch as a faint glow overtakes it, and then, as it slides into my chest. I resist the urge to freak out and remain still. The only thing I can feel is a faint warmth that is oddly out of place in my chest. And then, a rush of energy hits me and I manage to hold back my surprise. Mana fills up my body. That which was lost returns in plentiful form. My eyes flutter closed and I bask in the feeling. Eventually the warmth disappears amongst the flow of mana and my eyes slowly open. Castor is staring down at me in vague annoyance. Your recreation spell is inefficient, she informs me. Do not use it again, or I will be displeased. Does that mean you aren't going to do anything like that again? I ask teasingly as a smile lights up my lips. She smiles in wicked amusement. No, it simply means next time you will not be permitted to heal yourself. I resist the urge to pout. What a horrible sense of humor she has. But I like my hands? Castor laughs softly. Perhaps it would be prudent to do as I instruct then, would you not say? She says sweetly. Or perhaps I should be kind and remove one of your legs instead, would you like that, my servant? I puffed out my cheeks petulantly and refrained from answering. She paused for a moment before speaking. Now, would you tell me why you abandoned your post? I was looking for enemies? I offer her a reason. She frowns. I know of all the servants that have been summoned thus far in the war, she informs me. Besides yourself there have been 3 others summoned. Do you know which ones? I ask her. Her lips quirk and she turns away. I do, yes, and you shall find that they will appear before this gate before too long. Which is why you want me here instead of out there kicking ass. I take a guess at her reasoning. That is correct, she acknowledges my words. I will be most displeased if you abandon your post again. Master begins to walk back to the temple and I am left staring at her back. The pressure that bears down on me vanishes and I let out a sigh. I take it from the way she said it that her displeasure will involve exploding another one of my limbs. It's probably within my best interests to abide by her commands for the time being. She is a witch. Though, she did refill my mana after she exploded my hand, that was nice of her. In a sick roundabout way, I turn away from the temple and drop back down onto the stone steps. The sunlight stretches over Fuyuki City in a blanket of warmth. Unfortunately, it doesn't extend to the temple. The trees shade the pathway up the mountain, a shadow that leave unpleasant chills crawling up and down my body, both physical and spiritual. The forest that encases the mountain is an evil soul-eating one. I can smell blood long since spilled and faded on the bark. There are invisible handprints on every tree. It is a forest of carnage that forbids entry to those who exist beyond the human form. Servants are those kinds of beings, so it is hostile to my presence. Just from being on the edge of the boundary field that cloaks the trees I can feel its enmity. As the sun falls in the distance beyond the horizon, shadows begin to stretch forth across the city, and the mountain dims as the sky becomes overcast. The winter air thickens and chills the lungs as it is inhaled. A sudden spike of knowledge and memories floods my mind and induces a momentary case of déjà vu. My clone has finished school for the day. In the end it had to endure a math class and the remainder of Taiga's English, throughout which the excitable woman had taken to bombarding it with surprise statements and questions peppered with English and Japanese. In the end she had been satisfied, or rather, gleefully excited to have found such a well-spoken student. She hadn't taken no for an answer at the end of the school day, and forced me to go the archery club again. Though the experience hadn't been unpleasant. The members of the club had taken to referring to me as vice captain. The look on Shinji's face had brought me a feeling of delight like none other. Neither Taiga nor Ayako ended up doing anything to alleviate it. In the end Shinji had left in a huff when reminded that he agreed to part with his position after all. When he left he took with him a group of younger girls. Taiga had watched on in disapproval as they left together, but hadn't said anything. It had taken a while, but eventually the club dispersed and my clone was able to escape, though not without promising Taiga that it would return tomorrow. Which I doubt I will be able to do, with Master all but chaining me to the temple's gate, unless I determine a way to outwit the witch. I pause and consider doing just that. She hadn't seemed to notice straight away. It had taken her a few hours to learn of the deception. There had to have been a cause for her to figure it out. My musings are cut short as I notice the presence of someone on the path to the temple. Or rather, two someones. Near the base of the steps two figures have begun to ascend. It is a bit difficult to make them out at the distance in the darkness, but one is in the school uniform that I adorned during the day. Ryudo Issei has returned home. And, I freeze. My eyes narrow. Kazuki-sensei, what are you doing here? My body fades from physical sight and I observe the pair as they make their way up the path. I resist the temptation to step out as they pass by and cut Kazuki's head from his shoulders. I wouldn't want Issei to be traumatized for life, after all. They pass through the gate and part ways. I follow behind in Kazuki's shadow. He passes into the building and I follow through the wall. He approaches one of the rooms in the back of the temple, where I can feel a familiar presence. I steel my nerves and rush into motion. My body bursts into physical form and I lunge towards Kazuki. A dagger-like weapon materializes in my hand and strikes for Kazuki's neck. Stop. My arm freezes as well as the kunai in my grip. I try to fight against the command and an indescribable pain lances through my hand. I hold back a gasp of pain and my hand shakes. Kazuki steps out of range of the blade, unaware of how close he had come to his end. He opens a door and disappears inside. I catch sight of a faint purple glow. The steel in my hand vanishes, no longer needed. I am confused. What just happened? I struggle for a second internally. Master did something, I am sure of it. There is nothing capable of restraining such an action so easily. But it wasn't easy. There had been an impassable will stained on the command. Is this what a command spell is? Why didn't she let me kill Kazuki? Why did she let him in her room? How did she know I was about to kill him? Questions bubble away in my mind, unanswered. I frown at the now closed door and turn away. Wait, could he be her? Oh well, it doesn't matter to me. I ignore the lingering curiosities in my mind and head back to the gate. The darkness has continued to fall across the city, and the lights have begun to appear. Eventually I find myself on top of the gate on my back. The cool breeze is brushing against the trees and the needles and leaves sing a beautiful song of whispers. Beautiful and morbid. Nothing good can come from the trees here. The very air they touch becomes poisoned, or perhaps I am biased considering how unpleasant such a thing is to a servant. My eyes snap open. There is someone approaching. I slid off of my back and drop my legs over the side of the gate. Deep in the dark path below me someone is coming. Someone is running. Someone intends to enter the temple. I drop down from the gate and land with a light thud. I wait patiently as the being approaches, and then, from the darkness a blue figure emerges. He stops 24 steps below me. Moonlight overhead cascades down over the new arrival, illuminating his features. He is covered in a full body suit of blue material. There are lines of silvery metal tracing over his body, and shoulder guards of the same material cover his shoulders. He has a pair of earrings that match. He has stark red eyes and blue hair that is tied back into a ponytail. Our eyes meet, and he grins victoriously. Fancy meeting you here. He greets me with a pleasant tone. His greeting, despite the words and tone, is filled with an aggressive excitement. I smile broadly. Nice evening, isn't it? The best kind. He slashes his hand in front of him and red light pools between his fingertips, before it spreads out and forms into a weapon. A sleek spear of crystallized red appears in his hand. The tip has a wicked and cruel design. The base is jagged and the shaft is encrusted with vein-like designs. It is a beautiful and deadly weapon. I flex my fingers and a kunai materializes between my fingertips. I receive a frown at the summoned weapon. "Is that your noble phantasm?" he asks me. "Or are you mocking me?" I grin at him and flip the kunai in hand. A little bit of both. His frown morphs into a feral smile and he lunges up the stairs and thrusts his spear. I smile and lean forwards, bringing my kunai up and parrying the thrust lance. I have the higher ground and the home field advantage. Still, even with that, the weapon in my hand is fractured from a glancing blow by the enemy's weapon. I jump backwards and throw the kunai towards the enemy's head. It is blocked in a flurry by the lance. By the time my feet touch the ground, a second and third kunai materializes in my hands. This is the difference between an immaterial weapon and a noble phantasm. The materialization of a hero's legend is something impressive. "You're Lancer, right?" I ask calmly as I analyze his stance, or lack of. He flips the lance in hand and holds it laxly as he observes me. "What gave it away?" he asks. "The lance." I laugh lightly. "That must have been it." Chalk. Mana floods my arms and pools in the immaterial weapons I hold. An ethereal aura shapes to the steel edge and forms into a lethal edge of solidified wind. Again, Lancer thrusts his lance forwards from an impossible angle and I redirect the blow with the edge of the kunai. I grin as the newly sharpened edge of the kunai withstands the blow from the red lance. My grin soon fades as a second thrust is parried, and a third, and a fourth, and a fifth, and sixth. The lance that was at one point visible has become little more than a hurricane of strikes. I can see the blows, and my body can react. The kunai withstand the force marvelously. Lancer takes a step backwards and the tip of his weapon scraps the ground. And then, I lean backwards and barely avoid being pierced through the jaw. The strike is followed up by a second, and third, and fifth, and fourth. The count is obscured as the lance moves with enough speed to, by the weaker eye, be mistaken for a simultaneous strike. I slip underneath a strike and slide forwards through his guard. My arm lashes out and the edge of my kunai scraps the material of Lancer's vest before he moves out of range and I am forced to parry a blow aimed at my head. "Nice movements," I compliment Lancer as I lunge to his side and strike with one of the kunai. The attack is blocked by the edge of the lance he holds and I'm forced to move out of his immediate range. Even as I retreat, I am forced to dodge his strikes. I slip between the thrusts of the lance and barely catch sight of a sudden increase in the speed of the attacks. I lash out with the kunai and the tip of the lance stabs into the wind-coated steel. The kunai breaks in my grip and is rejected from reality. A second later, a replica appears and is reinforced. "You almost got me." I flick a kunai at Lancer's face and move back out of range of his spear. He is forced to block the attack and cannot follow me up the mountain. I throw a third kunai, and a fourth, and fifth. The immaterial weapons materialize and are launched within fractions of a second, and every single one is blocked with apparent ease. Lancer grins at me and slides a foot forward. His grip on the lance changes and he jumps towards me with reckless abandon. Kunai form and I slash them across my front. The tip of the lance slides between them and I thrust my arms up into the air. The tip of the spear grazes the top of my head. My eyes widen and I twist my body. My foot rockets out from underneath me and slams into the side of Lancer's head. "I got you." I crow and release the tip of the spear from between the kunai. I raise my arm at the same time and grimace as the shaft of the spear slams into my arm and knocks me off balance. "I got you back," he retorts and a spark flies as he twists the spear in hand and the tip scraps across the ground. "I kicked you," I retort. "All you did was tap me with the spear, I clearly am winning." Lancer stops his assault and frowns. He straightens up and folds his arms across his chest and holds his spear underarm. "I think it's pretty clear that I hit you directly." He disagrees with my assessment of the battle. "All you did was barely scrape the side of my head. By etiquette I am clearly winning." The kunai in my hands vanish and I mirror Lancer's frown. "But I hit you first," I argue, "and I did more that scrape the side of your head, I felt contact." "All you hit was air," he insists. I grin. "That must be what your head is full of." In a split second, the spear is thrust towards my head. I lean to the side and allow the single strike to pass by within an acceptable distance. "You're starting to piss me off." The spear is thrust 5 times. 4 are avoided by movement. The fifth can only be deflected by the kunai that materializes in the span of the second last thrust. Without the reinforcement, the kunai shatters from the glancing blow. The exchange breaks down into a pattern of attacking and defending. Lancer's spear may have the range, but with the higher ground I have a better view of the city, and that just brightens my mood enough to give me the edge. I notice that the gate behind me has crept up and is closer than it should be. I frown and shift my body outside of the striking angle of the incoming thrust. I should probably move this further down the path. I slip forwards and slam my fist into Lancer's chest. It's blocked by the red spear, but the strength of the blow carries through and sends him backwards a few feet. Lancer clucks his tongue in annoyance and I feel a rush of wind as the spear narrowly misses my left eye. Almost got me. I laugh and recreate a shattered kunai, only to throw it a second later and have it knocked out of the air as usual. But it serves its purpose. The spin of the spear gives a split-second gap that can be taken advantage of. But Lancer is aware of the weakness, and as soon as it appears it is gone by shift in his center of gravity. "I've figured you out," Lancer declares through his attacks. "You're not archer or caster or saber or rider. You're definitely not a lancer." He grins and twirls his spear again, knocking a second kunai out of the air. "That leaves you with berserker and assassin." A feral look overtakes Lancer. "And you're too restrained to be a berserker." I grin in excitement as a storm of red blows erupts from my enemy. Dodge, 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 parry, dodge, slash, dodge, parry, parry. It's a joyous dance of brain and brawn as we match our strength against each other. But it is lacking in certain ways. The strength of the attacks is below what I would have expected from such a man, as is the ferocity. But then, I myself am not aiming to slay Lancer. The blue servant jumps backwards down the stairs and lands on a flat level a few meters down. An annoyed expression has appeared on his face. He lowers the tip of his spear to the ground. I'll ask just in case, since this is our first meeting. "Do you want to call it even?" I blink in surprise. "What?" Lancer frowns. "I'd prefer to finish things, but you see my master is a coward, and I am supposed to back off when a servant appears." "But that's no fun, is it?" I smile widely and the act is mimicked. "I'm supposed to guard the gate. If you don't try and cross, then I don't really have a reason to fight, do I?" "It's no fun," he agrees with me and grasps the shaft of his spear. "So let's end this on a final note." Lancer lowers his stance and the air around him suddenly distorts as magical energy begins to rumble around his lance like a whirlpool. The air stills between us and my eyes widen. This is it, the activation of his noble phantasm. The crystallization of the legend that makes Lancer a heroic spirit. The beast known as Lancer jumps towards me. In a split second he appears on the steps below me as if he had teleported, and the red lance is thrust at my feet. I grin widely and move to attack Lancer's exposed throat. And, Guy, a sudden rush of magical energy erupts from Lancer as the words pass his lips. Bulb, the tip of the spear that was aimed at my feet redirects and is thrust towards my heart. In the span of a second I turn and jump away with all my might. The tip of the spear pierces the skin of my chest and my heart misses a beat. The force of the blow knocks me backwards into the air. I manage to land on my feet and I clutch at my chest. A wet stain has appeared on my clothing. I grit my teeth. My heart continues to beat and with every thud a spike of pain is shot through my chest. The hell was that? I demand to know and stare at Lancer with anger. That was an impossible attack. It was aimed at my feet, but at the last second it changed its course and struck for my heart, something that shouldn't have been possible. The lance has not changed its shape or form. The fluid motion of the sudden change was too natural for what it was. Lancer stares at me with annoyed eyes. "You dodged it?" he murmurs quietly. "I didn't dodge it. I was struck by that impossible thrust that defied logic. This is the power of a noble phantasmic weapon. The power to reverse the laws of the world so that a goal is achieved before the journey is made. What should have been, the lance has struck, so the heart must be pierced, has become, the heart is pierced, so the lance must have struck. But the heart wasn't pierced. An impossible act was met with an impossible result. My shocked musings are interrupted by the sound of teeth being ground together. Lancer glares at me with contempt. "You evaded it, assassin." "My fatal Guy Bulb. Guy Bulb," I echo lowly. "Is that the name of your noble phantasm?" I straighten up and ignore the small hole in my chest. "I'll have to research it to find out who you are." I grin at him. I hate reading, I inform him. Lancer frowns. His hostility disappears and he clucks his tongue in annoyance. You don't recognize the name? His lance disappears and he folds his arms across his chest. I thought I was famous. The magical energy surrounding the servant disappears. He turns his back to me and begins to walk down the mountain. I'd like to finish the fight with you, but unfortunately, my master is a coward. He's telling me to go back since you evaded my lance. I frown at Lancer's back as he slowly makes his way down the mountain, but I say nothing. Instead, I clutch at the wound on my chest. It's beginning to heal slowly and shouldn't be a problem for too much longer, but all the same. A lance that ensures death for the victim, and I avoided it. I'm awesome. The winter air bites at my skin. It's colder than it was yesterday, colder and dimmer. The grounds of the school are awash with the first rays of sunshine of the day. Students have already begun to arrive. A group of them have gathered in the middle of the school grounds and are talking amongst themselves. I recognize a few of them. The gray-haired girl, who I met yesterday, Himuro Kane, is present and in a tracksuit. She is standing with another of the girls I met the day before, Segusa Yukika, the smallish brown-haired girl who had been shy, who is wearing the same tracksuit. Well, not the same. It's a separate one, but its design is the same, and it's smaller. Naruto-kun. A familiar voice calls out from my right. I turn towards the source and a smile appears on my lips. Captain, morning, I greet the captain of the archery club. Ayako is strolling towards the dojo. Her bag hangs low on her hip. She smiles as I address her. Ayako, she corrects me. As my vice captain, it's only proper, isn't it? Just Naruto. Then, I insist and stand up from my seat on the archery range's steps. Ayako steps past me and slips her bag off of her shoulder and onto the ground. Can you help me open up today then, Naruto? She asks as she fiddles with the lock on the steel grate covering the door. Of course, I agree easily and step up. The lock clacks and she pries the gates open. I take hold of one and slide it to the side. Ayako does the same for the opposite grate. I pick up her bag and hand it to her. She gives me an odd look but accepts it nonetheless and enters the dojo. The dojo is the same as it was yesterday. The interior is dim. There is a faint trace of dust in the air that catches the sunlight as it filters into the large room. You want some tea? Ayako asks me as she drops her bag by one of the low-set tables in the back of the dojo. No thank you, I politely decline. She gives me an annoyed look. I mean, yes, please. She nods in approval and she disappears into one of the back rooms of the dojo. I sit besides the table she set her bag down at. A few seconds pass and the lights in the dojo flicker on. Illumination floods the room. I breathe in deeply and the scent of the dew-soaked grass from the range tickles my nose pleasantly. Ayako soon reappears with a tea set and a boiled kettle. She places them on the table and sits across the table from me. She is quiet as she goes about preparing the tea. I observe in equal silence as she goes through the motions. By the end I am presented with a cup of Japanese tea. The smell clashes with the scent of the dew-dripped grass well. I can't help but smile as I pick up the cup and lightly sip. The tea burns as it passes my lips. I hold back a grimace and place the cup back down on the table. Ayako observes my actions with a small smile. Not used to tea? She asks with a slight tease to her voice. Not really, I admit easily. Never really acquired a taste for it. Ayako's smile dims into a slight frown. That's no good, she informs me. It's a sign of a good upbringing to enjoy tea. I don't object out loud, but it's an odd view to have, but then I suppose it shows well enough, considering my childhood. I pick up the cup and take a small sip. It isn't as bad as the first but the tea still burns, and the steam annoys my eyes. I set the cup down again and watch as Ayako brings her own cup up to her lips, and blows very lightly on the tea. Steam wafts away from the cup and Ayako brings it up to her lips and closes her eyes. She takes a small sip and smiles in obvious enjoyment. I'm not really vice captain, am I? I ask suddenly. Ayako's eyes snap open and she stares at me in silence for a few moments. No, you're not, she admits. But it won't hurt for Shinji to learn some humility once every while. I nod in acknowledgement and drink a bit more of the tea. Don't get me wrong, Ayako says quickly. You'd definitely make a better vice captain. But Shinji earned his position, and even if he is a bit unmanageable at times he did earn his position. Her lips quirked up, though he did put his position on the table. She places her cup of tea down on the table and rests her head on her hand. If you manage to keep shooting as well as you did yesterday, then I doubt anyone would object to you becoming vice captain. Or perhaps even captain. Ayako's eyes sparkle. Is that your game, taking over the dojo? That's a pretty bold plan for a stray who was taken in on a cold winter day. I give Ayako a confused look. She chuckles and waves her hand at me dismissively. Just joking, she informs me. Unless that is your plan. It isn't, I disagree and smile. My plan is to. I trail off and ponder. I want to make good memories. I tell her honestly. I'm not sure how long I'll be around, so I want to enjoy my time while it lasts, you know. Ayako's eyebrows rise ever so slightly at my confession. Good memories, she murmurs quietly, and her eyes drift down to the table. That's an odd thing to want, isn't it? I shrug my shoulders and smile bashfully. Is it? I bring the cup of tea up to my lips and guzzle down the rest of the scalding hot liquid. Ayako watches on with an amused, annoyed look. That's bad manners, she informs me as I set my cup down. Do you want another? I shake my head to decline, but Ayako takes my cup and prepares another for me in spite of my answer. You don't seem to have brought a bow with you today, Ayako comments. So I take it you'll be using one of the school bows? That's right, I agree, it isn't a problem, is it? Ayako shakes her head. No, not really, but I suggest that you do purchase one of your own soon. The school ones aren't that well maintained. I'm certain you'd find you'd do even better with a newer bow. But I like the bow I was using, I argue. It has character and stuff. I insist. Ayako perks a brow. Is that so? Far be it from me to take you away from your fantasies, she teases me. I pout very lightly and accept the cup of tea as she passes it to me. Ayako-senpai, are you here? A soft voice calls out from the doorway. Matu, come in, Ayako calls out over my shoulder. Good morning, Ayako-senpai. I turn my head towards the door and catch sight of a purple-haired girl as she enters the dojo. As the day before, Matu Sakura is wearing the school uniform and has a pink ribbon in her hair. However, she seems a bit pale and she has a distracted look upon her face. Good morning, Sakura, I greet her with a smile, to which she lowers her eyes and murmurs a faint, good morning Naruto-san. Ayako gestures to the side of the table. Sit down and join us. Sakura approaches the table and sits down to my left and Ayako's right. Ayako glances down at the table and frowns before she moves to stand. I'll go get a cup for you. Don't bother, I say quickly and pass Sakura the warm cup in my hands. Here, have mine. She accepts it without protest. Ayako frowns and gives me a stern look. I guess she doesn't like that I don't want to drink her tea. Thank you, Naruto-san, Sakura says softly and manages to smile ever so slightly. No worries, I say brightly and return the smile. Sakura holds the cup close to her chest in her hands and basks in the warmth. It's rude to hand your tea to another person, Ayako informs me sternly. Unless, she says, slyly, perhaps you think of Sakura in a more intimate way, is that it? She leans forwards and smiles in a devious way. Sakura lowers her gaze to the table and a very faint blush colors her cheeks. Two can play at that game. Well, technically any number of people above one person can play this game. Though I suppose you could play it with yourself, but it'd be pointless and boring. I smile widely at Ayako. You mistake my intentions, Ayako, I disagree. You see, I had assumed since I gave Sakura my cup, you'd allow me to drink from yours? I wink at her. She seems unimpressed, but nonetheless, she hands over her half-empty cup. I frown internally. I hadn't expected her to actually give me her teacup. All the same, I accept it with a smile and bring it up to my lips. At the last moment, I rotate the cup so the side she drunk from lines up with my lips and I take a long sip from it, maintaining eye contact with her all the while. Despite her straight-laced look, a faint blush tinges her cheeks. Thank you, I say as I hand the cup back over to the blushing captain. She accepts it stiffly and hesitates, before taking her own sip, from the opposite side of the cup. She glares at me lightly as I smile at her in victory. Besides me, Sakura watches with a very faint look of amusement. The sound of footsteps echo from the dojo's front along with the sound of animated conversation. Ayako brings the cup of tea up to her lips again and all but inhales the contents. She slams the teacup down on the table with delicate force and stands up. The purple-haired girl besides me remains seated and continues to sip her tea quietly. Morning Captain. Ayako-senpai, good morning. Meet Suzuri, morning. A chorus of welcomes from the club's members fills the dojo. Ayako responds to each in kind and quickly gets the members prepared to do morning practice. Did you have a pleasant night? I ask Sakura suddenly. She turns her gaze up from the table to me and smiles and nods. Did you do anything fun? She hesitates for a moment. I spent the night at Fujimura-sensei's place, she answers. I helped her with dinner, she explains. You can cook? I ask in genuine interest, before pausing. Can you cook ramen? Sakura blinks her purple-colored eyes in surprise before she shakes her head. I've never tried to cook it before. I lean back and scratch my cheek. If you ever do cook some, tell me so I can try it, okay? I make an unreasonable request. Sakura nods silently and averts her eyes again. Do you know of any good places to get ramen? I ask after a moment. She bites her bottom lip and after a moment answers. I don't, but I think Nii-san might. Nii-san, I echo silently. You mean Shinji? Sakura nods. I scratch my cheek. I doubt Shinji would give me a good answer if I did ask him. After all, the run-in we had yesterday was pretty severe in the morning, and the club antagonized him further with the vice captain thing. Could you ask Shinji for me? I ask Sakura after a moment of debate. Ask me what, Namikaze? I blink and turn around. Matu Shinji in all his blue-haired glory stands behind me looking down with an amused smile at Sakura and I. Do you know of any good ramen places, Shinji? I ask after a moment. He laughs and moves to sit in Mitsuzuri's vacant spot. Behind him a girl or two moves to follow. One quickly rushes forwards and takes the seat opposite of Sakura. The one who missed the chance pouts and sits between Shinji and the first girl. Ramen, eh? I know some good places you might like, he answers amicably. Kind of cheap, though, don't you think? Or are you a cheap kind of guy? I shrug my shoulders. I have good memories with ramen, I answer honestly. Shinji continues to smile, although it takes on a confused quality. You're weird, he says and laughs. The girls he brought with him giggle. I find it oddly comforting that Sakura holds her silence. The girls and I were going to go out after school to the city. He gestures at his groupies with a dismissive hand. Do you want to come with us? It can be a double date. I'll think about it. I'm mildly concerned with the sudden change in behavior, or perhaps yesterday was simply a bad day for him and he's trying to make up for it. He grins at me. I'll get your answer before last period then. He muses to himself and stands up. The two girls with him stand up as well. See you later, Namikaze. He pauses and looks at Sakura before walking off. A flash of irritation appeared in his eyes for a moment before it disappeared as he turned away. Namikaze, get up here and practice. Ayako calls out from near the range. Just because you're new doesn't mean you don't have to train every day. I blink. What happened to Naruto? This must be Captain Mode. I stand up and make my way over to Ayako. She immediately points me to the storage room to retrieve the bow I had been using yesterday, along with a quiver of arrows. We haven't got a uniform for you yet, she informs me when I return, bow and arrows in hand. But I'll get the nurse to take your measurements so we can order one, alright? Sounds like a plan, I agree. I take position and begin to haphazardly fire the arrows at the corresponding target down the range. They all hit the mark, generally around the center of the target. There are a few dead bullseyes but most hit the second or third ring. No, 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 Ayako snaps from behind me. You're doing it all wrong. Ayako reaches to my arm from behind me and goes about correcting my stance and how I hold the bow. But they all hit? I say in confusion. You're doing it wrong, she insists and assists me in preparing another shot. I half expected her to press up behind me and guide my arms with her own, but instead she moved around to my front and observes. Now try it, she encourages me. I draw on the bowstring and fire. The arrow zips across the range and embeds itself in the fourth ring of the target. I frown and shift my stance back to the original and let loose another arrow. With a satisfying thud, it pierces the center of the target. My way is better, I confirm. Be that as it may. Ayako sighs and gives up on her protests. She soon leaves to assist other members. Time flies like the arrows I'm firing. Quickly and in a straight line. Good morning everybody. A happy and loud voice calls from behind me. I turn to greet the newcomer as a chorus of welcomes dispenses from my fellow club members. Good morning Fujimura-sensei. I greet Taiga. Fujimura Taiga smiles happily as she observes the range. When her eyes land on my target they widen and she all but skips over to me. "Very impressive Namikaze-kun," she praises me. "You'll definitely be our star pupil if you keep this up." For the first time I take a moment to look at the other targets down the range. They vary in the arrows collected and the accuracy, but in general they are a far cry from my accuracy and volume. I feel inordinately proud one moment, and then the stark realization that they're just normal humans hits me and I feel put out. Taiga pokes my shoulder. "What's with the long face?" she asks curiously. "You've done very well." She points down the range. "Look, only one is even slightly out of center." I resist the urge to point out that the arrow furthest from the center is the one Ayako corrected my stance on. "Did you sleep well and have a good breakfast, Namikaze-kun?" Taiga says in a sing-along voice. "I had a nice sleep and a good breakfast." I lie with a slight twinge. "I didn't sleep and I have no need to have breakfast." Taiga stares me down. What, can she tell I lied? She screws her face up in irritation before she lets out a sigh. "I can't trick you up, can I, Namikaze-kun?" I give her a confused look. "What do you mean?" She puffs her cheeks out. "How can I catch you out if you don't even notice when I change languages?" she complains. "Oh, you did?" I ask, surprised. She glowers at me. I laugh mildly at her expression. She maintains it for a few more moments before it fades into a smile. "I'm pretty happy that you appeared," she informs me. "You're excellent in both archery and English," she muses. "I can brag about you to all the teachers." She clasps her hands together happily. "I have a prized student," she exclaims gleefully. She pauses and stares at me. "If anyone asks, I taught you everything you know. Got it?" She says such a thing with a threatening air about her. Of course, I agree. "You taught me everything I know, so it's only natural that I'm great in the subjects that Fujimura Taiga teaches, right?" She nods happily, before frowning and giving me a look of disapproval. "I'm your teacher so you shouldn't call me that," she lectures me, before sulking. "And I hate that name, it's not feminine at all," she complains. "Fujimura-sensei is feminine enough, even with her name," I inform Taiga. She blinks and smiles in a pleased nature. "You're quite the charmer, Namikaze-kun. If you keep it up I'll have to introduce you to my grandfather." "What's he like?" I ask. Taiga seems relaxed as she continues to talk. "He's a real estate tycoon," she informs me. "He's really good man." She pauses and brings a finger to her lip as a thought pops into her mind. "But he's always surrounded by these odd men in white suits and flashy ties." "They sound weird," I offer my opinion. Taiga nods seriously. "I think they're into cosplay," she informs me in a conspirator whisper. "Cosplay?" I echo silently. "What's that?" Taiga blinks in surprise, before she stares at me wide-eyed. "You don't know what cosplay is?" she says in disbelief before her shoulders sag in an exaggerated motion. "I thought all the boys these days knew what it was." "What is it?" I repeat my question. "It's when people dress up as characters in anime and games," she explains happily. I reach up and scratch my cheek as I become embarrassed for the question I'm about to ask. "What's an anime?" Taiga's gaze turns to disbelief. She frowns severely. "Are you making fun of me, Namikaze-kun?" she demands to know. I shake my head. "I really don't know what those things are," I insist. She continues to stare at me in disbelief. "Have I really asked such an odd thing?" "Don't worry," I say dismissively, "I'll find out from someone else." Not I'm curious as to what it actually is. By the way, I begin to ask. "Does the school have a library?" Taiga stares at me like I've lost my head. She sighs and her shoulders slump. "Of course we do," she pouts. "What kind of a school do you think this is? What's with all these odd questions?" I shrug my shoulders and smile. "I'm just playing with you, Fujimura-sensei." "I'm not." Taiga glares at me and pouts. "You said you weren't making fun of me," she whines. "You're mean, Namikaze-kun." She turns away and walks off, leaving me at the range by myself. I stare after her blankly. "If you're done let someone else have a turn, Namikaze," Ayako calls out. I do as she instructs and step away from the range. A slightly pudgy student takes my place. I head back to the table at the back of the dojo. I notice that Sakura is sitting there by herself watching the other members. At one end of the dojo Shinji is standing with a few girls, laughing as some of the students continue to practice archery. "Can I sit here?" I ask Sakura. I give her no time to answer as I plop down on the ground across the table from her. All the same she nods. "So, what do you think?" I ask her, "Do I have what it takes to be a good club member?" I joke around. Sakura smiles gently and nods her head. You're very good, she murmurs, even if you don't use the proper method. I laugh and scratch the back of my head. It's not that big of a deal, is it? The purple-haired girl shakes her head softly. Not unless you intend to be a professional. I don't intend to, so I guess it's fine for me. A pleasant sort of silence falls between us as Sakura turns her gaze to the archery range and watches the club members do their thing. As far as I'm aware, she hasn't been up to the range yet today. You're not going to practice? I ask her with an honest curiosity. She shakes her head. I will this afternoon, she explains to me. I nod in acceptance. So, I remark, what can you tell me about yourself? She blinks and smiles unsurely. What do you mean? What are your likes, dislikes, and dreams for the future? I ask in amusement. A vague sense of nostalgia washes over me as the words leave my lips. She blinks and shifts her gaze away from me. Oh, too personal? I muse. Well, let me go first then. I pause to consider my answer. I like good memories. And ramen, because ramen can become a good memory. I dislike the rain, and I don't like bullies. I wonder what my dreams for the future are. My dreams, I murmur under my breath. I smile at Sakura apologetically. I haven't decided yet. Sakura listens with a placid look upon her face. She smiles very slightly at the end. Good memories. She looks away for a moment, before turning her gaze back to me and smiling. I like to cook, and the person I like is. She trails off, before shaking her head. I don't dislike anything. My dream for the future is. Hey, you two, get up, it's time to leave. Ayako approaches from the range with a smile on her face. You look happy, I observe with a small amount of irritation. As soon as Ayako appeared, Sakura took her chance to stand up and begin to walk to class, murmuring a quiet, goodbye. Why wouldn't I be? Ayako asks happily. It's a new day and no one needed help, it's a good start. She grins down at me. Didn't I tell you to get up and going, Namikaze? I let out a deep breath and stand up. Okay. I begrudgingly do as Ayako says. I lightly brush my knees, before pausing and straightening up. You know Ayako, I begin to say. You're awfully cute when you're bossy. I smile at her sweetly. Meet Suzuri. Ayako cannot take a compliment. Her cheeks flush pink and her brow furrows and a speck of indignation appears in her eyes. My own glitter with amusement as I watch her attempt to diffuse whatever emotion she is suddenly feeling. Thank you, Namikaze, she says after a few seconds. Now, if you wouldn't mind. She points to the entrance of the dojo. I got it. I laugh and turn away from her, and begin to make my way out of the entrance. You know, Namikaze, Ayako says suddenly, from behind me. You're awfully cute when you do as you're told, just like a puppy. I tense and turn around in disbelief. It must show on my face. Ayako gives me a pleased look as she catches my gaze. A wide smile appears on my lips and I can't help but laugh. You're awful, I inform her through the laughter. It's at this point Taiga takes note and bounces into the conversation. What's going on? She demands to know. Did I miss a joke? I love jokes, tell me. She insists she be let in on the joke. Which is impossible. There isn't room left for Taiga in this comedy sketch. Hey Fujimura-sensei, I say to her and walk towards her. What's that? I point to her chest. She blinks in confusion before turning her gaze down to where my finger is pointing. As she does, I lift my finger up and flick her nose. Got you, I say as seriously as I can. Taiga blinks, continues to stare at my finger, and slowly connects the dots in her head. Why you? She roars before poking me hard on the chest. I'm a teacher, you're not supposed to play practical jokes on me. She continues to poke my chest, each poke harder than the last. I thought you were a good student, but she continues to rant. I can't help but laugh at the look upon Taiga's face. It coupled with her emerald green dress, and Tiger's striped undershirt is just too cute. That's it, Taiga declares. I warned you yesterday, 1,000 years of punishment. She folds her arms across her chest. This afternoon I'm going to beat it into your head, Namikaze-kun. She clasps her right bicep with her left hand, tilts her head backwards and puffs her chest out. I smile at Taiga. I look forward to it, I say with honesty. Taiga falters. She hadn't expected my reaction. She glowers at me in a sulk before she huffs and puffs, and ushers everyone off to homeroom. As I walk out of the dojo, Ayako appears beside me still clad in her archery garb. All of the other students around us have already changed out of their own uniform, leaving Ayako to be the odd one out. I don't point it out to her, and I catch her glancing at me every now and then with a smile. What is it? I ask suspiciously. Do I have something on my face? I reach up and wipe my face down. My search comes up clean. Ayako's smile widens. I told you before, she chides me. It's a good day. Did you forget already, Naruto? I answer with a shrug of my shoulders. What do you have first? I ask her. Homeroom, she answers as if it were obvious. I give her a flat look. What do you have after homeroom? I correct my question. You should have just asked that first, she taunts me. I resist the urge to rap her on the top of the head with my knuckles. I have English with Fujimura-sensei, she gives me the answer I wanted. As soon as we hit the school grounds, Ayako parts with me and goes her own separate way, with a goodbye and a quick wave. I refrain from pointing out to her that she still isn't wearing the school uniform, or perhaps she's allowed to wear it. The students are already packing the halls and are moving to their classrooms. I open the door to the room and enter. As I do, I catch sight of a familiar fair-faced student. Good morning, Issei, I call out and wave to the resident student body president. Issei looks away from the orange-haired student he is talking to and gives me a brief smile and his own short wave of hand. Good morning, Naruto-kun, he greets me. How are you? Issei doesn't answer straight away. I had a terrible sleep, I think, Issei answers after a few more moments. I don't feel quite well rested enough. He doesn't show it right now, but when he left for school in the morning he all but fell down the stairs at the temple, so I'm inclined to believe it. Oh, Emiya, Issei says suddenly and looks over my shoulder. I glance over my shoulder in the direction he is looking. An orange-haired student approaches, the one he was talking to yesterday. Morning, Issei, the orange-haired student greets him. Issei smiles at the newly arrived student and after a moment of consideration gestures towards Emiya. Naruto-kun, this is Emiya Shuru, a good friend of mine. He gestures to me. Emiya, this is Namikaze Naruto. The orange-haired student gives me a smile and offers his hand to me. I heard yesterday, nice to meet you. I grin at the action and clasp it. A faint tingle touches my palm. Namikaze Naruto, good to meet you, I return the greeting. What an odd sensation, but still. He seems like a nice guy. I absently note that the back of his hand is covered in a patch of gauze. I let go and ask, what happened to your hand? He blinks in confusion before following my gaze to his hand. Oh, I don't know, I must have hurt it last night, but I don't remember doing it, he confesses. I wouldn't have noticed it if Sakura hadn't pointed it out this morning. I blink. You don't mean Matu Sakura, do you? I ask curiously. He nods with a smile. You've met Sakura? I laugh and nod. I met her yesterday in the archery club. He blinks, before smiling happily. You're a member of the archery club already? He asks, sounding impressed. Besides this, Issei shakes his head very slightly at our conversation. I had completely forgotten about him. I turn back to speak with him. Well, look here, all my friends are together. A voice says from over my shoulder. Morning Shinji. Shuru answers the newcomer with a smile. Shinji appears at my side in all his blue-haired glory and a frown manifests on his lips. Why are you so happy, Emiya? He asks irritably. Shuru continues to smile. I don't think you need a reason to be happy. A faint smile appears on my lips at his words. Issei and Shinji, however, have different reactions. Issei frowns and a look of irritation appears on Shinji's face. Good morning everybody. A sing-along voice overrides the conversation as Taiga bounces into the room with a brilliant smile upon her face. The class responds in chorus and those still out of their seats sit down. Taiga's homeroom is in session. As Taiga goes through the class roster, I take note of the empty seat in front of my desk. At the same time Taiga calls out a name. Sawada. Silence meets Taiga's call. She looks up from her desk and frowns. Sawada Riza? She calls again, silence remains. Taiga's gaze flickers towards the empty seat in front of me. She frowns, but nonetheless marks her absent. Roll call proceeds as normal. And that's it for today, Taiga announces cheerfully. Remember to head home before 6, and all that. She waves her hand dismissively as she leaves the room. Lunch arrives after my first math class. I'm embarrassed to say that I didn't do as well as I expected to do. That is to say, I barely managed to get by without shaming myself. As soon as the bell rings, the students in the class make their way to lunch. As it was yesterday, only a few girls remain in the classroom. Do you want to join Emiya and I for lunch? Issei asks as he passes my desk. No thanks, Issei, I decline politely. I want to check out the library, I explain to him. He nods in understanding. If you do decide to join us, we will be in the student council room. He turns away and leaves the classroom. I lean backwards in my seat and stretch my arms. I stand up and make my way out of the classroom soon after. The hallways are full of students talking and walking. I make my way towards the staircase before I pause. I don't even know where the library is. I frown and glance around quickly. As a matter of fact, I don't know where the student council room is either. I fold my arms across my chest in annoyance and am jostled mildly as a few students force their way past me. In the end, I decide to head to semi-familiar ground. I draw a few stairs as I had yesterday. It's starting to annoy me. Are my looks really that far out of the ordinary? I've seen a few girls with blonde hair and an odd orange-ish complexion, isn't that more strange? Eventually I find myself at the entrance to a classroom. I hesitate for a moment before entering. It's a straight duplicate of my own classroom. The only differences are the students inside and the view out the window. My eyes scan the faces of the students inside the room looking for a specific set. A pair of charcoal black eyes catch mine and suddenly glare. I smile in return and approach. Hello Kaide-chan, I greet her pleasantly. The tomboyish girl folds her arms across her chest and frowns. What are you doing here? She asks sourly. And where's Riza? She demands to know. She has an irritated look upon her pretty face. She's not at school today, I answer easily. I smile at her companions. Hello, Himuro-san, Segusa-san. I greet the silver-haired girl, and the diminutive brown-haired girl sitting beside them both. Good day, Namikaze-san. Himuro's cool voice greets me as she looks up from the magazine in her hands. Good morning, Namikaze-san. Segusa greets me shyly but with a smile. How are you both today? I ask them and return Segusa's smile. Hey, don't ignore me. Kaide protests. Why are you here anyway? I smile at Kaide sheepishly and reach up to scratch my cheek. Well, you see, I wanted to go to the library, but I'm not sure where it is, and I figured you guys would know. I explain to Kaide. Don't you have anyone else to ask about that? Kaide snaps. I blink in surprise. I wonder why she's being so hostile. Well, not really, I only arrived at the school yesterday. Oh, and do you know where the student council room is, as well? I forgot to ask Issei where it was before he left. I can show you, if you'd like, Himuro offers calmly and pushes her glasses up her nose. I'd appreciate that. I beam at her happily. But you know, you don't have to waste your lunch on me. I can probably find it from directions. She's offering to take you and you're trying to get out of it? What kind of a man are you? I blink and stare at Kaide. That's rude, Maki. Segusa murmurs quietly. What's with that look? Kaide stammers and looks away from me. You're an odd girl, aren't you? I state my thoughts frankly before I turn back to Himuro. If you're offering it'd be rude to not accept, right? Himuro Kane's lips twitch ever so faintly, and she nods. She moves to stand. Twin palms slam against the desk and Kaide rises to her feet alongside Himuro. If you're going then we're going as well. She declares stubbornly. That really isn't necessary. I laugh off the offer and try to dissuade the rambunctious girl. Kaide makes a noise of annoyance and glares at me. Why are you still arguing over what's already been decided? She demands to know. 3 beautiful girls are going to accompany you, you should be grateful. Well, if you put it that way, I say sarcastically. Makadera Kaide nods her head happily. I don't think she caught the sarcasm that I purposely used. Perhaps I'm just not good at it. I suppose it couldn't hurt to have them come along. It isn't like I'm exactly against it. Okay, I concede. But you can't complain that I took up your lunch, okay? Kaide gives me an overly offended look. Who'd do a thing such as that? She asks and looks away. She would. I'd bet my left hand on it, again. Shall we go then? Himuro asks calmly. Segusa nods and stands up. I need to return a book anyway. Kaide mumbles under her breath as she fishes through her desk quickly. Found it, she exclaims happily before slamming the lid of her desk back down and stepping around it. The 4 of us exit the classroom together and the 3 girls begin to talk amongst themselves. I was so sure I beat my old time this morning, Kaide complains to Himuro. You were close, Segusa encourages her friend. It was just outside a second. She smiles brightly. Half a second is forever in sprinting terms, Kaide argues. I begin to tune out their chatting and observe them as they make their way ahead of me through the crowds. Packaged with her traditionally beautiful features, her tanned skin, and her temperament, Makadara Kaide is a very odd girl. On the other hand, Segusa Yukika could be said to be the opposite. Average looks, healthy colored skin and a polite and shy manner and a warm smile. She is much more expected. The third girl lies somewhere between them. Odd silvery hair, gray eyes, fair skin, cool temperament and a well-rounded bust size. She makes up the balance quite successfully. Himuro catches my gaze on a glance back towards me. Do you like track, Namikaze-san? She asks me and attempts to include me in their conversation. I guess so, I'm pretty good at it, I think, but it isn't a hobby or anything. Sounds like you're just a simpleton who can't appreciate the beauty of running. Kaide brags. I'm pretty sure I could beat you with both my hands tied behind my back. I grin at the back of Kaide's head, and continue to do so as she turns back to me with an odd look upon her face. If you did that you'd break your face, she informs me slowly. I find myself oddly offended. What I mean is I could beat you easily. I explain it to her in simple terms. Not in a million years, Kaide disagreed quite vehemently. Wanna bet? I grin at her. The tomboy's eyes widen with excitement. I do. Let's do it right now, and if I win then you have to give me 100,000. At the surprised looks Himuro and Segusa give Kaide. I wonder how much that is exactly, beyond the obvious of 100,000 yen. Okay, I agree instantly and my grin widens. And if I win, then all three of you have to call me Onisama, forever. I point towards the three of them in amusement. Kaide, Himuro and Segusa stiffen and look at me as though I've grown another head. Kaide is the first to snap out of it. You're a weird bastard, aren't ya? For a moment a brief accent shines through her voice. It's a deal, she declares happily. Himuro and Segusa snap their heads towards her in surprise. At the looks they give her she huffs. What? It's not like he's going to win. I chortle to myself. She points towards the school grounds. Get ready to lose, Namikaze, I'm the fastest girl you'll ever meet. She brags. Himuro looks like she has something to say to the dark-skinned girl's declaration, but holds her silence. I'm sure you are, I agree and follow her. She stops by a painted line on the ground. This is where we start, alright? She points out to the distance and traces her finger around the perimeter of the school grounds. You're not blind, right? So you can see the marked points? We go around those, the first one back here wins. She points to Segusa. Yukichi, you call it for us, okay? The smallish brown-haired girl nods to Kaide. Okay Maki. I take a good look at Maki and frown. She notices the look and an angry glint appears in her eyes. What? She demands to know. Not that I mind you giving me a handicap, not that I need it, but... I point at her lower half. Are you really gonna run in a skirt? Kaide blinks and looks down at herself. Kaide, like all the other girls in the school, is wearing the uniform. A uniform which consists of a tanned vest with a red bowknot, a white blouse with an odd red cross design on the cuffs and collar, and a long black skirt. Though, a difference between Kaide and her companions is that, unlike them, she has knee-high socks instead of pantyhose, which most of the girls wear. This, Kaide begins to say, before trailing off. She points to me in irritation. Don't go anywhere, I'll be back in 10 seconds. She bursts out into a sprint and runs back towards the classroom building. I frown and scratch my cheek, before glancing to the two girls still with me. So, I begin to say, which way is the library? Himuro wordlessly points towards a two-story building with large glass windows on the side and front. I smile at her gratefully. She reaches towards me, but hesitates. You will wait for her to return, right, Namikaze-san? She asks and drops her hand. Of course, it'd be rude not to, I answer. It'd be rude, but it'd let me get to the library before the bell rang. I reach up and scratch my cheek. Segusa mumbles. Did you have a good lunch, Namikaze-san? She asks me quietly and tries to smile. I shook my head. I haven't eaten yet. She blinks and gives me a shy look. Do you not eat lunch often? No point in lying. I don't usually, no. That isn't very healthy, Himuro comments casually. I guess so, I can't really disagree. You have a big breakfast though, right? The silver-haired girl asks curiously, having turned her full attention to me and having taken over the conversation from Segusa. I hesitate in answering. No, not really. She stares at me blankly. Why are you so tall then? She murmurs under her breath. I blink. I find myself at a loss for words, and for the first time notice that I am taller than most of the other students. The top of Segusa's head barely reaches my lips, while Himuro's manages to reach my nose. Does Namikaze-san have an eating disorder? Segusa asks quietly, concern obvious in her voice. I laugh awkwardly and shake my head. I eat. Lots of snacks? I offer lamely. It's obvious that the gray-eyed Himuro doesn't believe me, however it seems my excuse has satisfied Segusa. She smiles in relief and nods. The cafeteria has a good selection of food and is reasonably priced, Himuro informs me. I nod idly. I'll try that sometime then. An odd silence falls and time passes. I wish she'd hurry up, I mumble under my breath. She will return soon, Himuro informs me and absently pushes her glasses up her nose. I'm back. I'm here. A voice calls from the distance. I glance towards the class building. A figure is sprinting towards us in a blue and red tracksuit. I guess you were right. I agree with Himuro and smile at her. Her lips twitch faintly. Kaide comes to a stop before us with a wide grin on her face. You ready to lose? She taunts me between breaths. She runs a hand through her short hair and straightens up. Are you? I retort childishly. She steps up to the line and I take my position beside her. Here? I ask. She frowns. A bit further away, she insists. I don't want you to get in my way. I take a few steps away to make a gap between us. Is this better? Kaide grins. Much. She nods towards Segusa. Ready. I'm ready, as well. I offer with a grin. Segusa nods to us and steps closer. She stands just ahead of us to my right. She raises a hand into the air, and holds a stopwatch in the other hand. Beside me Kaide lowers her center of gravity and touches the track with the tips of her fingers. Go! Segusa's hand is flung down. Kaide is off as soon as the small-haired girl twitches her arm. She sprints like a bat out of hell. But then, what does that make me? I grin as the air rushes past my face and plays with my hair. My legs and feet move in steady rhythm. I glance beside myself to the inner track and my lips twitch in a smile as I observe Kaide's intensely focused gaze. Her eyes only point forwards, but she notices my look. Out of the corner of her eye, her jaw clenches and with a burst of speed she tries to break away from me. I lengthen my strides in the set pace and easily catch up, and pass Kaide. By the time we're halfway around the track I have a 2-meter gap on Kaide. I don't want to embarrass her too much. My strides shorten ever so slightly, and Kaide begins to catch up. And then, without warning she shoots past me an unexpected burst of speed. What a girl, give her an inch and she takes a mile. I find myself observing her from behind as I am reduced to second place. Perhaps it's the eyes of a servant's body, but I can see the strain she is putting on herself to beat me, a single-mindedness focused solely on parting me with 100,000 yen that I don't have. It's too bad for her that losing has never been one of my strong points. I push ever so slightly and catch up to Kaide. We have a third of the track left. I'm going to put her in her place, just this once, and give her something to aspire to. I run, and go faster, and faster, faster than I should as a pseudo-teenager. I leave Kaide behind in my dust, and soon my dust settles before she even catches up to it. I pass the start line and stumble a few steps as I stop. I turn back and grin at Kaide as she runs towards me. It's a beautiful view, first place. She arrives and glares at me, her face covered with sweat and her chest heaving with long draws of breath. Segusa is staring at the watch in her hand with wide eyes. She glances up at me, and then back down at the watch, before glancing back down again, and back up. Himuro is standing over her shoulder staring at me like I've grown another head. What is it? I ask worriedly. What is it? Kaide snaps and approaches Segusa and Himuro. She stares down at the stopwatch in Segusa's hands and the blood drains from her features. That's impossible, she protests. You must have hit the timer too soon, Segusa. But look, your time is only a second slower than this morning's. Kaide stiffens and then she too looks at me as though I've grown another head. I frown and fold my arms across my chest. What's wrong? I ask awkwardly. Segusa steps towards me and holds out the stopwatch for me to view. It reads 43.59. Is that good or something? I ask awkwardly and scratch my cheek. Good, Kaide echoes my words in disbelief. That's an Olympic time. Who the hell are you? She demands to know. My eyes widen in surprise and mild panic. Maybe you timed it wrong. I tried to wave it off, before smiling at Kaide broadly. No matter what, I still beat you, I taunt her. The taunt doesn't seem to register while the disbelief at the time and how hard I beat her hasn't settled in. The bell rings. I frown. I guess I won't make it to the library after all, I muse. I'll see you three later. I grin at them and point my thumb at my chest. Remember, it's Oni-sama now. I tease them and turn away. Wait, come join the track team. Sagwasa shouts suddenly. I pause and turn back. Sagusa has stepped towards me and is clutching the stopwatch in her hands. Why? I ask in surprise. She hesitates and loses her voice. I wave my hand dismissively. I'm already a member of the archery club, anyway, sorry, I apologize and walk away. Hey, don't turn your back on me. Kaide shouts at my back. I resist the urge to turn back to taunt her, and keep on walking. The bell rings for the end of the day. Everyone remember that curfew is at 6, and to be sure to return home straight after your club activities. Taiga says calmly as she observes the class in front of her. The class seems concerned. They're watching Taiga as if she's about to explode any moment. As soon as she dismisses them, they all but flee from the classroom. I stand to leave and Taiga's head snaps towards me. Her gaze is focused and intense. I walk past her desk. Namikaze-kun, she says suddenly, a hand grips my shoulder with a tight grip. Please remain after class, if it's convenient for you. Even if you say that, Fujimura-sensei, I laugh her request off. You're holding me here, aren't you? Taiga blinks and looks at her hand. So I am, she muses but doesn't release her grip. Soon she and I are the only two left in the room. She nods to herself and releases my shoulder. She picks a long bag up from behind her desk and walks towards the door. Come, she orders me. I follow her with no small amount of nervousness. We walk in silence through the emptying building, and eventually exit from the bottom floor. The entire time Taiga remains silent with her gaze fixed ahead. We arrive at the archery dojo in minutes and as soon as we enter. Everyone pay attention. Taiga roars and slams her foot on the ground. In the span of a second all eyes are on Taiga. She walks into the center of the dojo and points to the back wall. Everybody off the floor. She barks an order. They all comply, even Shinji and his group of girls do as Taiga commands without hesitation. I move to follow them. Not you, Namikaze-kun. She points a finger to me as I take a step towards the wall. She reaches into the long bag she carries and throws something towards me. I catch it on reflex. I blink in surprise and stare at the object in my hand. It's an odd sword with bamboo for the blade and a circular wooden handguard and white bands round the tip and halfway up the blade. I look back up in time to see Taiga throw the bag aside and brandish her own bamboo sword at me. Hers is slightly different. It is around the same size, however it looks to be more finely made, and has a small tiger strap on the handle. Prepare yourself, Namikaze-kun, for 1,000 years of punishment. Taiga rushes forwards, sword clutched in both hands and attacks. I change up my grip on the sword she threw me so that I'm holding the handle instead of the blade, and block Taiga's attack. The bamboo sword in my hand releases an almighty crack as it meets Taiga's and sends vibrations up my arm. Taiga isn't happy. She slashes towards me again and I knock the attack out of the way. Fire ignites in the tiger's eyes. Taiga releases a battle cry and begins an unrelenting fervor of strikes. I have no idea how to properly fight with a sword, but I have faster reflexes and strong arms. Taiga is a ferocious wave that crashes against my beach defense of steel. I think I'm getting the hang of it. For the first time I strike back against Taiga and she expertly parries my strike and manages to thwack me on the shoulder. I blink in surprise and grin. I take a step back and hold the sword in my hand out towards her. She knocks it aside with an absent swing of her sword and moves to strike my head. In an instant I bring my arm back and hold the sword between her own and my face. They meet with a thunderous boom. I bat Taiga's sword aside and lightly poke her shoulder with the tip of the practice sword. Taiga stares at me in disbelief and she stands still in silence. And then, her gaze starts to waver. Her bottom lip starts to quiver. And she, Namikaze-kun, you're so mean. She wails and continuously whacks me with her sword. The strikes wouldn't have even hurt if I were a normal human. They're like light taps. You're mean, super mean, you're not my favorite student anymore. She continues to cry out in a tantrum. I'm at a loss for what to say. I hesitantly reach forwards and pat her on the head. There, Fujimura-sensei, I say placating. Taiga sniffs and looks up into my eyes, and then, she whacks my face with her sword. Don't treat me like a kid. She snaps. I'm your teacher who you just assaulted, you're in trouble. I can't help but laugh as I drop the sword in my hand and bring my arm up to block the repeated attacks. The action only causes Taiga's strikes to increase. Eventually Taiga remembers that we're in the middle of the dojo with the rest of the archery club members watching, or rather, she gets bored. Okay everyone, back to practicing. She smiles at the rest of the club sweetly as if she hadn't just spent the last minute and a half physically assaulting me. The rest of the club time passes peacefully, if not dully. Taiga refuses to speak with me for the entire time. Ayako is too busy working with the younger students who are having trouble. Sakura doesn't show up until halfway through, and when she does she seems unapproachable. And Shinji. He was busy with his groupies, was being the key word. Hey, Namikaze, want to come with us to get something to eat in the city? At the end of the club Shinji approaches me with an offer to join him and his group for a meal in the city. No thanks, I politely decline. I had to do something this afternoon. Hey now, Shinji frowns. I'm inviting you out to spend time with me and these beautiful girls, don't you think you should consider it? Yeah, senpai, come eat with us. One of the girls chip in with a big smile and an encouraging set of. I avert my gaze from its falling descent. Maybe tomorrow? I offer an alternative. I really have to take care of something, I inform the blue-haired boy. But I should be free tomorrow. What could be more fun than going to the city with some cute girls? He asked incredulously. I hesitate. Well, I wouldn't call it fun, but I'm going to the library. A scowl appears on Shinji's lips. You're turning down my offer to read? I shrug my shoulders. It's important, I inform him with an air of finality. He snorts and turns away. Whatever, I was just going to introduce you to this gorgeous girl I know, he drawls. But if you're not interested, that's cool and all, I'll just tell her you'd rather read books instead of take her on a date. Tomorrow, I insist. Shinji gives a bark of laughter. One-time offer, Namikaze. Come on senpai, one of the girls encourages me. You can buy me a crepe. I really can't, I insist. The girl pouts in disappointment. Whatever, Shinji says dismissively. It's your loss. Shinji and his group of girls leave soon after. I watch them go with mild regret. I probably could have gotten some ramen in the city. I put away my bow and the arrows collected from the target at the end of the range. You heading home, Naruto-kun? Ayako asks as soon as the majority of students have left. Going to the library first, I explained to her. I was supposed to go at lunch, but got sidetracked. Ayako brushes a stray strand of hair behind her ear. Want to help me pack up before you leave, then? She smiles at me. Okay, I agree. No problem. Ayako laughs. Good, because I was going to force you to anyway. That's cruel, I inform her, a girl shouldn't say such bold things. I stick my tongue out at her. I'm captain before I'm a girl, she answers my statement with her own. As long as there are duties to be done, it's a captain's duty to be straightforward. Is that so? I muse. She nods happily and begins to instruct me. In the end it takes 10 minutes to pack up the equipment. I resist the urge to point out how messy it is in the equipment room. Doing so would probably earn more work. We end up talking about boring things. Schoolwork, archery, food. It's a nice and relaxing atmosphere. Thanks for the help, Naruto-kun. Ayako says after the dojo is cleared and locked up. It was much easier with a second set of hands. No problem, I smile at my brown-haired captain. It's a vice-captain's job to assist his captain, isn't it? I tease her. Ayako sighs and folds her arms across her chest. I wish that were the case with Shinji, Ayako laments. He's too busy picking on new members and trying to impress those girls who hang around him. Ayako manages to smile at me once more before she waves at me and heads towards the administrative building. See you tomorrow, Naruto-kun, she calls out. See you, Ayako. I call back fondly. Ayako pauses in mid-step, and looks as though she's going to turn back. Instead she shakes her head and continues on. I watch after her in amusement, before turning away and making my way towards the building that houses the library. It's across the schoolyard. I note that the track team and all the other clubs seem to have gone home for the day. The sun has already dipped below the horizon and a beautiful and faint orange glow remains from the sunset. The cool air of the night has set in upon the cold winter's day air. I reach the two-story building and try to open the door. It doesn't budge. I glance around and after making sure that no one is watching I allow my body to momentarily fade into mana, before passing through the wall and into the building. The inside of the building is warmer than the school grounds and the faint orange glow is even dimmer behind the glass windows. I make my way through the building and quickly find the entrance to the library. I scan the sides of the library for a light switch, and find one just behind the front desk of the library. I flip it, and after a few moments a faint buzzing sound fills the library, and fluorescent lights illuminate the rows upon rows of books. At the sight a faint sigh of resignation escapes me. I have a few more hours left before my time runs out. I'd better get started sooner rather than later, or I probably won't finish in time. I must be a masochist, really. Books. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.